It's gone sideways.
Great. Well, Russell, thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you, Andrew. Thanks for having me. I've been looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. I think ever since I started this podcast, you were one of the first guys that I had in mind that I thought would be a great fit for it. And obviously my first guest was John Killick, and that kind of is our connection because I was a bit over a year ago, in December 2021, when I went to the Bad Crime Writers Festival to see John Killick talk on a panel, and you were on that panel as well. And that was the first time I had kind of exposure to a bit of your story, and that was amazing, and that was just like a really a small snippet of it. And since then, I mean, you've gone from strength to strength, really.
Yeah. Man, I'm fucking flogging myself, but anyway.
Blowing up on social media. That was before your book had even come out, right? So your book, The Voice of a Survivor, which
written
is
by John Killick.
Which is written by John Killick and is your life story. Then you've also got your podcast, The Stick Up, which is continually rising up the ranks of the most popular podcasts in Australia.
We'll go and Google that.
Yeah.
Also Australian Story. I was on ABC's Australian Story, which you can get on YouTube.
Yep. Amazing.
Yeah.
And then you run your organisation, The Voice of a Survivor.
Yeah. Mate, that's hard work. That's a lot in a day, isn't it? You know what I mean? But I see that,
Where do you get time to scratch yourself?
That's funny, It's funny because it was last night. I was knocking off work at 10:30, and I thought, I'll just jump on TikTok and do a quick live. Because I had Johnny Lewis, a legendary boxing trainer, on my podcast today. So I jumped and I was just researching on my computer for a live on, and that's engaging.
It's funny because I was in bed, about to go to sleep, and I was just scrolling through TikTok, and I saw that you were live, and I was like, "When does this bloke sleep?"
Yeah, yeah. You know what? I look, up until recently, I was really suffering bad insomnia. That changed when I started doing this cold shower thing of a morning. It's just a game changer for me. That's part of my trauma. But it's funny. You jump on there and there's all these people on that fucking TikTok at 2:00 in the morning. I think about when do you sleep?
Yeah. Yep.
I'm there with them.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys like Daddy Shannon who's got these guys seem to be on TikTok live.
Then the man, you go, where's he got the energy? But I love it. I just love engaging with people and telling my story. And people are like, I like to think I'm pretty giving, and people will ask me about their dad or someone from jail.
Yep.
I give plenty of that.
I think that's something which is noticeable from all the content you put out on Instagram and TikTok is people respond to it because you're asking all the questions people have on their minds about what prison is like and the life of crime. And it's just so raw, your answers, just from your experience. And I think I can see from the comments and all this stuff, people are really seeking value in it, right?
For sure. And I engage. If someone sends me a message or asks me a question, I always do my best, always give my best. Because I think if someone's, making the effort to ask me that question and showing me the respect to ask me that question, I'm going to show them the respect to answer it. And, I love it. I love engaging with people. I'm a chatterbox by nature.
Yeah.
And I love a chat. And I don't know. And part of it's education because we have from the perspective of the prisons and that, as you'd know, we've got a very broken system. And the only way you're going to change that's through educating people, educating the potential voters and the potential academics. I think that's where the change lays.
Yep. Well, I mean, there's so many guys like yourself now who have, I guess, increasing profile, particularly through the use of social media, like Danny Shannon or Jeff Morgan or there's a million other guys, Spanian, right, who have spent time in prison. I call them crimfluencers, right?
Yeah, that's a good word. I like that tag. I'm a crimfluencer. I'm not an influencer. I'm a crimfluencer. I love it, man. I'm running with that.
And
that might be the name of my new company.
And
Crimfluencer PTYG Ltd. I love it.
There you go. Take it and run with it, mate.
That's your PR background.
Yeah. But what all these guys help to change people's opinions, right? Because when you're open and honest and you've turned your life around and you're able to kind of acknowledge, hey, this is my past, but this doesn't define me. This is who I am now. People can go, oh wow, all my perceptions of what it is to be an inmate and a crim but potentially I need to review them because maybe I was making judgments that weren't true.
I get a lot of that. I'm at the stage at the moment, like I've been out of jail coming up to 5.5 years. And I'm getting on people that are coming to me now that are saying, when you first started doing this stuff, I hated you. Me and my husband hated you.
Why did they hate you? Because you were just
a crim.
Yeah.
And they were of the opinion that I was making money out of my past being that criminal life. But now they've got a kid that's on ice who's displaying dysfunctional behaviour.
Yeah.
And they know the police don't work. They know the courts don't work. And maybe someone like myself could get through that kid. And I love that. And I don't have a resentment with them people. I just love the fact that we can turn them around and them people educate all their stiff friends, you know.
Yeah. I had a experience when I started posting things on TikTok about my prison food reviews and just talking about my time in prison because it was only 4 months. Guys who had been to jail were like, mate, you're an idiot. You shouldn't be talking about that stuff. And I say, well, 4 months was long enough for me to lose my fiance, my dogs, my business, my home, my reputation, and completely change my life. Like, how long do you need for something to happen for it to turn your life around, to change
100%.
your life?
And it's good, like some people get it. I say I'm a slow learner, fast forgetter, right? And it took me 23 years to get it. It took me 23 years to get it. But I mean, I've seen people go through I was talking to a guy on Saturday. He went through Surrey Hills Police Centre, Surrey Hills as it's called. He went for 3 days. He goes, never again, never again. And he's been out of trouble for a long time. He said that was enough for me.
Yeah,
it doesn't, it's what you experience and what your mind takes in, and that. I don't know. And I always say rock bottom's rock bottom. No matter if you've got a rock bottom in a penthouse in Double Bay or you've got a fucking housing commission joint in Mount Druitt.
Yeah.
And I can speak about Mount Druitt because I'm from there, so I'm not bagging the place.
Yeah.
Rock bottom's rock bottom, yeah.
Yep.
And I learned that I remember I was in a Narcotics Anonymous meeting once and this girl pulled up and she had the brand new AMG and I was thinking, sharing it out, and I was thinking, I got nothing like her. But when she told her story, I was thinking,
there's a lot of commonalities.
Commonalities and I actually thought, fuck, my story is a fairy tale compared to hers.
Wow.
She had like really successful dad who was just a tyrant, she couldn't walk right. She couldn't do her shoelaces up. Everything she'd done, she was under the microscope of, fuck, man, I couldn't live like that.
Yeah.
I got a Serbian girlfriend.
Yeah.
Man, I get it.
I think that rock bottom moment, is for each person it's different, but that moment where you just think that things have got to change. This is the time. I can't be doing this anymore.
The jail food will. Well, a first mouthful of the jail food, you would think, fuck, things have got to change because I ain't eating this dog shit.
Yeah, well, I think from the sounds of it, it was a lot worse back in the day than...
That was actually better. It was actually better in the day until... We used to get food in prison. Like, when they brought the TV meals in, that's when it went to shit. But before that, it was actually good. You get chicken. You get proper chicken. That was a chook.
Better buy-ups.
Better buy-ups.
Yeah.
There was just... Everything was way better. And when they brought that CSI, man... I remember getting this meat patty and I pulled it apart and had these little plastic things. And when I asked one of the people in the kitchen to explain, they go, oh, yeah, they're made out of cornstarch and they're meant to expand in your stomach and make you feel full. And
what the fuck?
Okay.
That's not real food.
Can you get them taken out of mine? Can I just get one without the plastic bits in it? You know what I mean? They're going, oh, yeah, so I just so much. And they have that fake meat that's meant to be no good for you. I just thought of that, like that jail experience. The jail experience for me was how they'll treat my family. How those prison officers were treating my family. My mum would come and my mum would just be so drained through the humiliation that she'd have to go through from them. And it was sort of like, I can't do that to her no more. I don't, 23 years I experienced a lot of different things, like a lot of violence perpetrated on me by prison staff who thought it was their job to punish me.
Yeah. Well, let's go through that, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, sure.
So you grew up in Mount Druitt, and you're one of 6 kids.
Yeah, I'm the youngest of 6.
Yeah, wow. So
None of them, and that's the whole thing with my family. None of my family members ever showed any social behaviour. Actually, quite functional people. So I can't say that I'm in a generational transference because my dad and mum weren't alcoholics and they weren't. My dad didn't bash my mum or anything like that.
Yeah.
So
you grew up in a neighborhood where crime was a bit glorified, and you thought it was cool.
Crims were treated like returned servicemen. You know?
Yeah.
The old mate had come walking out from jail, all tanned up and fit like that, and old Trevor's saying to his daughter, "Cheryl, get out! He's the type of bloke you marry, Cheryl." You know, rock and roll on the White Ox. He won't be around for long, but geez, you can have a good time.
And where do you think that? What was the reasoning why these guys were thought of as the ones you want to set up your daughter with?
Well, they're the anti-hero, really, weren't they? They were like because the authority, mate, the police used to come out there and they were just horrible to us. I don't know if it was if it was like government sanction, but it was still convict sort of mentality. There was still that convict mentality in the early 70s. It was still that, you know, before the days of neighbourhood watch and all that changed that whole thing. But I don't know, they were just the underdog, the complete underdog.
So was Mount Druitt, like almost everyone was tarred with the same brush?
To a degree. A lot of people were. I had breakfast yesterday with a guy who's a big property developer who came out of Mount Druitt, and we were talking. There wasn't an expectation on us there. There wasn't no expectation. We were sort of expected to be factory workers and a tradesman at best.
Yep.
There wasn't no one. You weren't expected. Like he wasn't expected to go off and be a multi-millionaire property developer, and I wasn't, you know, expected to sort of turn my life around at the age of 49 and be a successful businessman.
Yeah. It doesn't sound like anything's changed in terms of that view of Mount Druitt, because, I mean, I know from being in Parklea and Long Bay that a lot of the guys in there are from Mount Druitt.
From Mount, high representation. Yeah. You've got a high representation of Indigenous people. You've also got a high representation of people from Mount Druitt, Campbelltown, or from those low socio-economic areas.
Yep.
You know what I mean? I think it's just part and parcel. That's the option.
It seems like in there, I got arrested in Surrey Hills. That's where I spent my time. I went in there and didn't know anyone.
Isn't that an eye-opener?
Yeah.
Welcome to hell.
It was like, but for everyone else, it was like a buddy school reunion. Everyone knew each other because they all grew up in the same areas.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
It's similar to that. It's sort of you get to jail and there's a welcoming committee. Like when I used to get them out Druitt, get to jail, you go to Long Bay or Parramatta or something like that. It was like as soon as you get there, there's 35 people patting you on the back, and it's like going to war. And it's like, and letters from home. I said, did you see my brother? Did you see this? And you're updating people on their family. And then, come here, mate, we've got a TV for you. We've got this. And
that's it. Kettles, Breville's,
everything's
TVs,
set.
Everything's hooked up as soon as they get there. And you're like thinking, fuck, like it must be pretty. No wonder some guys aren't too phased about going to jail, because
feels like home to them.
They get set up straight away.
And they're validated there. And that's a big part of it. Like they're validated. That's where they belong. And they know their part and they know what they've got to do. They're part of something. They belong. I think that's the thing with these people. Like even when you live in those areas, you'll feel you belong more in prison than you would in the community.
It seemed like that a lot of the young guys felt like they get more respect in prison than they would out in the street.
It's crazy, huh?
Yeah,
crazy.
So, what was the pathway to you first? What were the first crimes you got? I
remember stealing a car at Parramatta. Like we stole a HT Ute that I couldn't drive, and I crashed it, and then I got like the car cute. The bloke I stole it with told on me, so good bloke.
Fuck, what a dog.
Told on me, but you know what? And then I know.
So how old were you around? You were about
15. And I went to Bajura Children's Court, and there was this woman who used to jump on TV, Barbara Holbar, as a magistrate, and just jump on talking about how kind and compassionate and that she was. But anyway, she sentenced me to 6 months. And back then, if you were under 16, you went to Darrick Boys Home, which is situated out at Windsor. And it's freezing cold in the winter and boiling hot in the summer. And mate, there was just rampant sexual and physical abuse going on there, and you know, I never escaped that, unfortunately.
So this was all the guards that were doing this. Yeah,
I think it was a bit more than that. I really do. And the more I think about it, and it's been brought to my attention by a few people. What was happening? We were seeing people in that of a night time that didn't work there. So I think what was happening was maybe it was like a pedophile ring, and they were bringing them in. You know. I really do. I start, the more and more I think about it, the more I think that was a bit more organised than it seemed.
It seems like insane that this kind of stuff could happen without someone putting a stop to it, and that not only it was not happening there, but all across fucking Australia.
I think it was government sanction. I really do. I think it was one of those things. They will let it, and as a deterrent from kids like doing criminal behaviour. I really not much can sort of change my view on that, because everyone, like even to the point, the governor of that place, who went on to be a politician, was a part of it. He's a perpetrator. He's actually charged at the moment, and pulling all that too sick to go to court thing, and he's not well, and all of those things that they make for rich people, they let him get away with in the courts. So he's going through all that stage at the moment. So I just think it was sanctioned by someone. A lot of people knew it was happening.
It's sickening to think that it was either these institutions, of which there are many, were either run by pedophiles or pedophile enablers.
It's crazy.
Makes
and some people just, well, it's not a bad thing, like just that whole attitude towards it. The whole. I wonder, like, what sort of politician at the end, like, because it gets to the top. They know what's going on,
I mean, I think anyone that enabled it is as bad as the perpetrators.
100%. And we're talking about, I've done some stuff with Gary Jublin, and he's calling for charges for them people that don't report it, and rightly so. Rightly so. If you don't report it, you're just as bad. You're just as bad. If you think it's, old mate's just got a sickness, he's not that bad a person, he's just having some problems.
Yeah.
It's a bit more than that. Pedophiles create the next drug addict. They create the next person for a propensity for violence. They create the next prostitute. They create the next self-harmer, the next self-dysfunctional. And I think what happens within the courts, I think the courts, and people say, why are the courts so soft on them? Because they keep the wheels of the justice system ticking over.
I don't think it's possible to read your book and about the things that happen to you and not wonder, what would that kind of life of being a career criminal had have happened if it wasn't for those things, right? And that happened to so many people.
100%. Like, I think with the work I do at the Voice of Survivor, I reckon 60% of people who are in prison that have suffered some sort of trauma, whether it be sexual, physical, or emotional abuse. I think them stats they make sense. And, at the moment, I've got 16,500 clients nationally, and I think we're just touching the tip of the iceberg.
It's 16,500 people that have been victim of institutional abuse. Is that right?
Yeah. And I think that's nothing compared to I think the database of the Royal Commission was 60,000. I think a lot of people.
It just makes you physically sick that, what the fuck is wrong with this country that this could happen on such a widespread level? You know
what? I went with the protesters to that George Bell funeral the other day, and people go, "Oh, well, he wasn't convicted." I'll tell you what, he was the architect of a thing called the Melbourne Response. The Melbourne Response is a blueprint for how to pay off victims, how to move pedophiles around. So he was an enabler. He was like showing them how to get away with it, right?
And you've got Tony Abbott, our former Prime Minister,
John Howard,
speaking. Tony Abbott was speaking at his funeral, just singing his praises.
100%. Peter Dutton. Hopefully, that's the death of Peter Dutton. I think, like the whole LNP party, and Julia Gillard, I'm so grateful, she brought in the Royal Commission Institutional Responses to Child Sexual Abuse, which is a game changer, changed my life. Yeah. And she fought really hard to get it, and Abbott was on the front line trying to say, we don't need it. We don't need it.
What the fuck would his reasoning be? Because he knew that it was going to uncover probably people that he
knew it was going to damage the Catholic Church, and rightly so, which it has,
Yeah.
It's I think there's a copper from Melbourne called Dennis Ryan who wrote a book about Pell and all that sort of stuff. And when you read that, it's sickening. But it's crazy the lengths that they went to stop it. They said, we don't need it, we don't do it. Well, they got 60,000 victims come forward, or survivors come forward.
It's damning.
Damning.
Yeah.
Any institutions, there's another thing, look at Hillsong, Brian Houston. He was the Prime Minister's mentor, right?
Yeah.
Whilst he was under investigation, look, he admitted at the Royal Commission's institutional responses to child sexual abuse, he covered a case up. whilst he was under investigation and wanted to get charged, the government gave him a $43 million grant. He ain't even a charity. Like, Hillsong Church ain't a charity. They don't do food handouts or anything like that. What was the purpose of that? Oh, they're just going to make sure that he's got enough money for his legal fund.
Seems to be a lot of prime ministers have been rubbing shoulders with some fucking scaly characters.
Especially that LNP. Like the LNP, people will say, yeah, okay, Milton Acropolis, state Labor politician, but at least he got charged. At least he done jail. You know, there's been a few over the years. That what's his name? There's one in Queensland. He was a teacher. At least they do jail. This LNP thing. It seems to be a protection racket for pedophiles.
So you were 15. You were at Darrick Boys' Home. That was when you were sexually assaulted, and then did you try and escape there? What?
Yeah, well, we ran away.
Yeah.
Me and a mate, but I left him for dead, so I was a bit faster than him. And I got home to Mount Druitt, and my dad was really crook with emphysema at the time, and I didn't really, I went there with every intention of telling them what was happening to me, but by the time I got there, I looked at my dad and I thought, fuck, I can't do this. I can't tell him. And so anyway, the boys' home turned up and they said, Russell rings and says, Russell hands himself in. There'll be no, he'll be right. There'll be no charges and everything like that. And so my mum and dad drove me back out there, and it kicked off,
I mean, there must be so many rock spiders that have gotten away with things because people are too afraid to talk about it. But then also it was the Darrick Boys' Home that came and picked you up instead of having the police involved, right? Because they didn't want you making any noise about what was happening.
A perpetrator's greatest weapon is victim silence and shame. When they don't talk about it, it enables them. And that's that whole thing, the whole culture that I've been trying to change is getting people to come forward and begin the healing journey. Because all that stuff they carry, that guilt and shame and all those horrible things, it doesn't belong to them. It belongs to the perpetrators themselves. And when you tell your story and you tell it like I've told mine heaps, it hands it back to its rightful owners, the perpetrator themselves. So it's really important. And the objective now for me and what the life I have is changing the culture of people talking, people talking about this sort of stuff, because it's, we can only change it by awareness.
Have any of those guys that were involved at Darrick been brought to justice?
No, they'd passed away long since. But I ended up getting out of Darrick. I'd done an apprenticeship at Darrick, and I was talking about Erskineville here in the city, and I'd come across all the Urco boys who were just like fucking so far advanced with crime. They were stealing Porsches and breaking into sports stores and far out, mate. They were rock stars in my eyes.
And so did they bring you up to speed? Were they teaching you?
I'd done my apprenticeship on how to steal Porsches, And by the time it was like a visual. Oh, you do this and you do that. By the time I was standing next to a Porsche, I knew exactly. I could start one in 35 seconds.
So what are the tricks to start?
Oh, well, you get it. It was a dent puller. It's called. It's a panel beating tool. It's called a dent puller. It's got a screw on the end, and it's got like a bar with a weight that comes down. So you screw the screw into ignition. Yeah. And then you bang, bang, knock the ignition barrel out and just stick a screwdriver in there and start it. It's so easy.
Fuck.
So easy, And my first Porsche I stole was a 930 twin turbo, 1982. Then things like F18s.
And how old were you then?
16.
Fucking hell. Must have been having the time of your life.
Oh, man. But what happened is I stole that from Whale Beach. Yeah. And Barrenjoey Road coming out of Whale Beach is only one way. So by the time we got to Newport, the coppers were trying to push cars in front of us. Going up French's Forest Road. French's Forest Road in the day was the darkest road in Australia. It was so dark. And it all of a sudden became light. It was the first time I ever used Polaire in a police chase in Australia, and that was on me.
So what time of day was this when this was happening?
This was 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, okay.
So it was lit up. Long story short, got chased, got over the Cremorne, went down a dead-end street, got trapped, and jumped into the ocean, tried to swim away, and got caught by the sea police. Yeah. And taken before Bajura Children's Court. The judge, I call it Judge Nostradamus, because Judge Nostradamus said, I'm going to sentence you to 12 months and stipulated to be served in an adult jail to deter you from future reoffending. Fuck. And he sentenced me to an adult jail. And we went to the Central Industrial Prison at Long Bay, and they put us in a protection wing that housed the worst pedophiles in Australia at the time.
So they don't put you in mainstream because they put you in protection because of your age, but then they're
for our own safety.
But then they ended up putting you in a fucking pedophile nest.
Yeah. That was their way of thinking, and once again, the abuse continued. First night there, I was sexually assaulted by 2 convicted pedophiles, and I don't know. I don't like, man. Like, what was fucking? Where was pragmatism and I don't know, common sense amongst all this? And you know what? The sad part about that was that legal aid lawyer, and that's why I've never had any faith in legal aid lawyers. I just think fucking they're just shit.
Mm.
He should have said no. He should have warned that magistrate, you can't do, and he couldn't do it by law. He wasn't. He was out of his jurisdiction to do it. He didn't do it. But he also should have rang up child safety. Now, if say for instance they tried to put a kid now and put him in a block of units where it was like, well, pedophiles live coming out of jail. Child safety again, mate. That kid's too far in danger, but they put us in. They put us in it.
It seems like you're failed by so many people to get to that point. I mean, even like it seems insane that all these screws also thought that this was
They thought it was
a
funny.
suitable punishment, right? That you would be thrown in with the fucking rock spiders.
But they thought it was funny. Like, I remember when he shut the door and he said, "Have fun, boys." It was like, fuck.
What kind of bloke do you have to be to think that this is
Catholic priest.
justice? Yeah.
Catholic priest, Catholic, you know, whatever. But it was just crazy. And you know, and I was introduced to heroin when I was there by a bloke who was a necrophiliac, a person who had sex with dead bodies. And it was just like this ultimate sickery. I was cast into this little pool or fucking nest of the ultimate sick shit. And
I have to admit, from reading your book, that whole period of you at Long Bay was probably the toughest thing I've ever read in my life.
Yeah.
You know, it brought me to the verge of tears. Just I couldn't believe it. And you know, I had to say to myself, like, well, fuck, if you're brave enough to share the story, then you got to like, how hard is it to just fucking keep reading? You know.
for sure.
But you must have had a few people mention that to you about the book and your story, is that it's so fucking confronting that such a horrible thing can happen to someone.
That's the hard part. Like, yeah, like Gary Jublin's got that Predator series. And he goes, it's a lot of people find it tough to listen to that sort of stuff. But we change things by acknowledging it and saying this thing does happen.
That was the thing. I was like, this is an important story. So you need to be able to get through it to hear this person sharing their story. Like, you're exposed to so much of that all the time with your organisation, right? People are sharing their stories. And, I mean, you know from your own experience just how cathartic it is to share the story, but also the fact that them sharing it is the first step in being able to do something about it.
100%. I think I talk about that all the time. Like, in my organisation, I've done the first 1,100 trauma interviews myself.
Fuck.
I heard, and then I'd done one. I was on happened to a good mate of mine who's doing life in jail in Queensland. I just said to my business partner, I don't think I can do them anymore. I said, I just don't want to do them. And he goes, why is that? I said, I'm just not up to it. He understood, and he said, all right, sweet. So, you know, we changed the infrastructure of our business. But then I went to a health retreat. I went to a retreat that specialises in treating returned servicemen from PTSD because I was really burnt out from it. But I think that's fast forwarding things. But what happened was, you know, I was introduced to heroin at Long Bay, and man, it just sent me on a trajectory because it was when I had heroin for the first time, it really numbed me, and it just took all of that shame and all that horrible shit, and I felt normal.
So it was like the escape that you needed at the time?
Yeah, it filled that void. I had like this massive void that had erupted inside of my stomach, and I just couldn't explain it. And it was all things swirling around like shame. Like, shame's horrible. Shame is a horrible emotion or feeling or whatever. It's just a horrible thing, and it doesn't sit well, and it doesn't do. Like, I get ashamed today with technology because I don't know technology, and I get fucking embarrassed, like about that sort of stuff. But I got out of prison, and and man, I had no intentions of going straight, and just I was thinking about, I'd done it on a resentment, like, I wanted to prove that judge that fucking 12-month sentence he fucking give me in jail was never going to work. Yeah, no effect, and let's go, like, I'll fucking show you, and look, I ended up breaking into department stores in particular. Back in the day, they were called Grace Brothers, which is now David Jones. out at Macquarie Centre, and I got pinched for breaking into that about 6 times and getting all the VHS recorders and that. And I get 11 years for that.
Fucking hell.
11 years for a non-parole period of 4 years. And I
for what is a relatively petty crime.
Yeah, burglary. But and I served about 2.5 years because they had remissions back then. But
so what's remissions?
Oh, for good behaviour, you got time taken off.
Yeah,
you got time taken off. So instead of doing 4 years, I've done about 2.5 years.
Yeah.
But but this time I was in a mainstream prison, and I was hanging around, and I gravitated to the bank robbers. I wanted to know everything about it because I had every intentions of fucking robbing banks. I had no intentions of fucking fulfilling Judge Nostradamus' fucking promotion, right, ambition or whatever it is, premonition, and I did it, and I just fucking hung out with them. I used heroin when I was in jail for a bit.
And did you have anyone try and sexually assault you when you were in mainstream
Nah,
jail?
nothing.
See that?
No, nothing. But there was a guy back then called Gary Stokes, Casper, and he got a bad rap because he punched a fine defaulter in the head, Jamie Partlick, and he got 25 years. But Casper was really protective of the young people. And anyone who even looked at us the wrong way, and Casper was a giant 120 kilo fucking man mountain, and he'd say, fucking keep your eyes off them. Yeah. Keep going. And people were really protective of us, like being from we're from Mount Druitt, so we had all our Mount Druitters looking out for us, the older statesmen. That would have, if we would have went to a mainstream prison in the first place, that would have never happened.
No, it's only when you get put into protection.
Yeah.
You get
with
put
the
around.
fucking deviates, with the fucking, and so it would have never happened, and I sort of, I don't know, it rattles me that, but I done about 2.5 years. I went down to Goulburn, and anyone that knows Goulburn in the middle of winter knows that fucking that's therapy, and went down there, and and as I said, I hung with I just picked their brains, and I was getting out, I was getting out to rob banks.
Yep. So what kind of questions were you asking to pick their brains?
Oh, what do you do? Where do you park the car? How long do you stay?
How do you pick a bank?
Yeah, how do you pick it? And they threw some challenges, and a good stick-up man will go on his own. A good stick-up man will take a security guard on that's got a gun. And I've done all them things. Robbed my first bank on my own. 3 banks deep, I fucking was taking guns off security guards.
So your first bank was at 1990, Gordon? Was that?
Yeah, Gordon Commonwealth Bank. I robbed that with a knife. And which bank? The Commonwealth.
And I mean, were you shitting yourself before you went in? What was the feelings of the morning before
I was sort of pumped. I was sort of going like, I'd been. I think I'd been there about 100 times in my head before, so it was like seemed natural for me.
So you'd done the rehearsals,
just
showtime.
It was showtime, and and everything. All those, like, it was funny hearing those voices in my head, like a bloke would say, "You don't shout and scream, mate. You don't scream. You don't want people to panic, and because if they panic, it's going to cause you trouble." And that was all these different voices in my head that would give me these different. And one bloke was going, "You always go over the counter." And you fucking get it, and there's like a bottom drawer underneath the counter, and that's where the good stuff is. But on that day, I just sort of didn't do it. I just got the stuff out the top drawer, and it looks like a lot of money because they spread it out, and it looks like a whole heap. And they place it a certain way, so the $100 notes are on top of the 20s, and it looks like you got a fucking $100,000 there.
So what, it was almost like a little bit of a trial run for you before you could do a bigger one, just to make sure that you could manage it.
100%.
Yeah.
And I was apologetic on the way out. Sorry for
about
fucking
this.
you robbing your bank. I was apologetic, and I don't think that takes away from the trauma that you cause people. I'm not trying to downplay it, but it was a funny story, because where I drove to, because I love buying shoes.
Me too.
I love buying running shoes. Anyway, so where I drove to Liverpool in Sydney to park my car, reversed it in, and all of a sudden coppers were running towards me. I go, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And someone had just robbed the bank where I just parked.
What are the fucking chances?
What are the chances of that?
Yeah.
Someone had just robbed the bank, and I'm watching. They running towards me. I go, I'll just put my hand on the steering wheel so I didn't get shot. I was like, and then my hands are there. Then they run past me. I go, what the fuck? And I run into the bank, and then I'll jump out. Oh, it was funny.
Your life just flashed before you, and then fucking 2 seconds.
And Roger Rogerson and his team were killing people at that stage.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So the pretty hectic teams running around, and we were aware of that. And,
yeah.
And then because I never got a lot of money, a couple of the boys had just got out of jail and they wanted the tee off, and so I happily obliged. And we robbed the Lane Cove Commonwealth with a back and front entrance, and that was more lucrative.
Yep.
110,000, 3 out, straight down the Parramatta Road.
And I've heard you talking about that one. You you parked a car in the
police station.
Police station.
Yeah, the police station is about 250 metres away from it. You know, so we stole a car, drove it up the driveway, let down all the tyres, put a club lock on it.
And so there was no point you were worried that the cops were going to see you doing that, or did it all happen so quickly? You did that, then bang, you straight into the bank.
Straight into it.
Yeah,
bang straight into it. As soon as they were down at the car doing it, as soon as they what happened is it's got a front and back entrance, and they were doing it, and I seen them driving back up the road with the thumbs up.
Yeah,
and so I rocked in with the shotty.
Yeah.
It's a real funny security photo on that one because I'm standing next to a sign and I've got a pump action shotgun and balaclava. It says, "Please wait here for next available teller." And I was like,
"Hello, I'm waiting."
Next teller. It was funny. I kept that for ages. And I was back in the day, Hey It's Saturday had the funniest photos, and I was going to send that in.
That's got to be a winner of the week, surely.
Yeah, surely it would have won me something. But no. And done that one, and you know, it was with a bloke, and you know, I was pretty, I don't know, we're loose, like, you know, go straight down the Parramatta Road and buy a car each with cash, and you're pulling out fucking $100 note, piles of hundreds from down your balls, and
yep.
You know what I mean. You got 30,000 down your pants. Yeah, mate, how much is this? And
living like kings,
like kings, and I was, you know, it was because I'd never lived like that. Growing up in Mount Druitt, everything was a struggle. It was like jumping on planes and going to surfers fucking paradise and going on holidays and feeling like I was so free and liberated, and because money wasn't an option. I was only one bank away from fucking having a good time. You know, life just felt really good at the time. In saying that, I was using, I was using copious amounts of heroin to deal with my trauma still, you know, and that just went up and up and up. And the more I used, the more I wanted to use, and the more stoned and more blanked I got. So that was still in the back of my mind. I was still dealing with that.
Were you doing it every day?
Oh, 100%. Sometimes 5 times a day.
Yeah, fuck.
You know, my girlfriend was a school teacher at the time. She went to pour a cup of coffee one day, and all these fucking loaded syringes fell into a cup of tea. I was like, fuck. Oh, no. Whoops.
That's confronting. Did she know about your drug use?
Yeah. She knew there was a problem there.
But she didn't. Not at the point of the syringes falling everywhere.
Because I that's how prepared I was. I didn't want to wake up. Like, your biggest fear as a heroin addict is waking up and withdrawing. Like, you talk about, people say, how do you describe withdrawing? I think about the worst flu you ever had and times it by about 10. That's how you feel. Your bones ache. You got a void. You just got a hole in your stomach. It's a most horrible feeling. I don't think we can sort of replicate it with anything else than drug, like heroin in particular itself. So, you know, I was always that. I lived with this constant fear that if I withdrew, but what only was starting to hang out, the memories of the abuse come back from a traumatic point of view, and it wasn't good. So
you straight away wanted to numb yourself out again.
Yeah. Straight away, you wanted nothing to do with that, and you want to be disassociated. I think, you know, drug, like in particular heroin, gets you straight into disassociation. Yep. You know, you disassociate from the event. You just can't remember it. You can't feel it. So there was that, you know, and then on the third bank I robbed was the National Australia at Tarramara, and that was a bit of, you know, Vietnamese security guard with his, and I just walked up and I just said, mate, you know the deal. He took his gun off him, and funny story about, like, I'll come back to that because there's a bit of a story to that. But it was the first time I ever took a fucking gun off a security guard, and it felt pretty good.
Yeah,
you know, it felt pretty good, and we hit that one. We'd done pretty well out of that bank, and then one day it was like I knew I was getting followed in the end. I could see him, and I was telling the other boys, and they were going, "Oh, mate, you're a fucking spinner." Yeah,
so you weren't sure whether it was paranoia, but you felt like
I felt them. I felt their presence. And then but my mate pulled up on a motorbike one day, and he said, "Let's go and do another one." And I knew they were watching me, and I said, "All right, challenge accepted."
I mean, I've spoken to Wayne Cleveland about the same thing, you know, that feeling of like knowing you're under surveillance, but also whether it's arrogance or whether just like addicted to the rush or could be a combination of a million things. It's not enough of a deterrent to stop, to lay low for longer or to stop altogether.
Wayne Cleveland's got the balls of a mountain goat, right? And mate, what he used to do is like robbing banks for fucking 8 hours. Fucking like you're on an 8-hour flight. That's like robbing a bank for fucking 8 hours. I think them blokes, those smugglers, were on the next level. But
so you decided to hit another bank.
Yeah, another one. I hit that, and then National Australia Turramurra. But then I just knew I was off, and I knew I was getting followed. And like one day, I dropped my girl. She was a school teacher, and there's a bloke out front of a school. He's got the bikie, like the wraparound glasses. He's reading a paper upside down.
It's like something out of a bad movie,
right? Yeah. I looked at him and I went,
like, mate, come on.
And then he'd come and try following me, and I'm onto that. And then, and then one day I'm at my girlfriend's house, and this bloke walks up to him. He's got a pair of overalls on. He said, "Hey, Russell, how are you?" And I didn't acknowledge. He said, "Hey, Russell, how are you?" And then next minute, he's got a fucking gun pointed at me. It was from from the hold up squad, and they were gangsters, mate. First thing they said, "Where's your money?" Because they wanted to rob me.
Yeah.
And that was they couldn't give a fuck what I've been doing.
So how old were you at this stage? Around early 20s?
20, yeah, coming on to 22.
Yeah.
Coming on to 22, and oh man, I'll tell you, the nightmare began. They robbed me from I had 30 grand left.
Well, so they went into your place and found your stash of cash?
Yeah, found that, found a gun. Tried on all my clothes, loved my shoe collection more than I did. I had, like any jewelry, they were fucking arguing. They were, mate, you had that last bloke's fucking clothes, you know what I mean? They were arguing over it. It was like, fucking, are these fair income? And then I got charged with 3 at that stage and 3 banks. And then I went to jail. I started withdrawing. I was like, fuck. And then there was an old fellow from prison who really liked me. It was a bloke named Kevin Holland, tough old bastard. Anyone that knows Kevin, and I've done a post about him the other day, toughest bloke I've ever met in my life. And he grabbed me and he said, "You're going down to that oval." And he said, "You're going to run, son." And I was thinking, "If I can't even breathe." And he goes, "If you stop running, so I'm going to fucking body punch you." And I went, "Ooh."
It sounds like from your experience in prisons that you've seen both the worst in people, but also the best in people.
100%. I've had some beautiful, like in particular, that guy was a legend. But yeah, I have. I've seen 2 murders in jail, and they're not too good to see. But I've also seen some kindness beyond people who genuinely care. Like that guy cared. He was never going to show you any emotion.
Yeah, but
he'd seen me previously really, really fit. And I think it broke his heart to see me in that condition.
Yeah.
And so, the other boys they were coming up. Within 2 or 3 days, I was right. And I was planning to escape because I weren't sticking around. I weren't doing it fucking voluntarily. And that's what I said.
Yep. So what was the plan?
Get fit. Get super duper fit.
Yep.
And I had a court case coming up at a place called Campsie. And Campsie, back in the day, you pull up in a prison van and they'd unload you on the street. So that was a winner. And I just knew if I was fit enough, tough enough, and back myself enough, I'd be able to get away. And a couple of days before it, a bloke walked up. He's an old SAS soldier, and he was like, he knew what I was up to,
How did he know? Just
no, I told him. I trusted him enough, and I said, "Think of a game plan. What's a game changer?" And this bloke, "What's a game changer for us with this escape?" And he goes, "Oh," and we'll practice on focus pads, like the best punch you could throw, because it was only going to take 2 of them. It was going to make the difference. When you come off the van, it's going to throw a couple of good punches. If they landed, you're a fucking chance, Yeah. And he come up to me a couple of days. He goes, "I've worked it out." And I said, "What's that?" He goes, "Grab a handful of salt." And he had a little bag. So the old mate's walking towards you, throwing his eyes unexpectedly, and see what he does. And the old mate's walking down, just going in his eyes, and old mate goes, "Oh, I don't want to do that." Like fucking sting in his eyes.
Yep.
And that's all we needed. And I was like that. You just need that 1 second when someone's taking their focus off you.
Just that space, that delay, so you can leg it.
Yeah, so you can get around them.
And so you did the salt trick.
Done that, worked a treat, and I'd thoroughly recommend it for anyone You're trying to escape
If
any
you're
situation.
considering escaping a prison
Well,
truck,
you could be escaping a marriage. You could be escaping all sorts, a pokey room or whatever. If you have to get out of somewhere pretty quick, but I don't recommend escaping. But anyway, so what happened is, and then back in the day, you could make a handcuff key. We used to have these steel dustpans, and we used to be able to make handcuff keys out of fucking steel dustpans. And everyone had one. You go escort, and all the handcuffs come off. They'd just be hung up. Oh, but we're about to pull up. Put your handcuffs back, and they were just
wow.
And so I
makes them useless, doesn't it?
Yeah, they were just pointless. They'd fucking sometimes people, if there was a gap on the dale, they'd just throw them out in the road, and everyone would jump off, and they'd go, "Where's the fucking handcuffs?" And say, "You never put them on." They'd go, "Yes, we did. Everyone had them on." And you go, "Fucking crazy. Where are they?" But anyway, so I come off the van that day, and before I got loaded on, I had my hair matted up. I was saying, "I don't really want to go to court today." He goes, "Mate, you got to go to court." I said, "I'm really sick. I've been vomiting all night." He goes, "Mate, when we get there, we'll make sure you see a doctor." And like they would have been fucking laughing to themselves, thinking, "Yeah,
bullshit, we're gonna do that." Yeah,
you'll be right, mate. Get it in there. And anyway, I come off the van backwards, and like he goes, "Oh, you're right." He goes, "This is the sick one, John. Make sure he sees the doctor." And I just went fucking bag of the salt went straight on his eyes, and I hit him from fucking right hand from hell, man. And I'll tell you, fucking.
So how many of the screws were there?
3.
Yeah. Okay. So you've inebriated one. You've taken him
and
out
the other one. Yeah, and the other 2, there was a bloke going to court with us that day, and he had no intentions of running away, but he changed his mind in the last minute.
Saw the opportunity.
Why not? And he was from the area, so he knew it really out. And he wasn't going to be doing that long. He would have been doing 6 months, ended up doing 10 years. But so we got away. We were meant to have a car parked in a space, but when we got there, it wasn't there, so we had to plan B. And there's this bloke painting his house. And we said, "Mate, is that your car?" He goes, yes, speak perfect English. And I said, "Mate, I just need your car, mate." I said, "We'll put a few bucks there for you."
Are you guys in greens, prison greens?
Yes. Yes. Adidas. And anyway, he perfect English. He comes out, pulls about 38 kill switches off this old bomb car of his, the biggest bomb in the neighbourhood. And off we drive, First person comes past as a copper, we'll give him the citizen wave, like, wave back.
Yep.
You just don't know what you missed. And then and then I went over and seen a mate, went to a phone box. My mate fucking met up with us, and then went to Mount Druitt, and the welcome committee was there for us. It was like, mate, back then, fuck, mate. And like, my mate wasn't from there. He was from like Condell Park or something like that. And he said, "Mate, what about, it's like you got to fuck it. It's like the only thing that's missing is the Marachi band."
Just the hero's welcome, and then the whole community just helps to hide you out.
Yeah,
right?
it was that was that whole attitude towards it. Like, I had options. Like,
it was
the
just,
first door I knocked on, they go, "Mate, knew you were coming. The beds are made. There's a feed in the fridge."
There's very much that us versus them mentality there.
We'll go and get you a bag of prawns.
Yeah.
Fucking sit down at cricket on. 12th of December 1990. And I remember it well. And
it was a pretty cool feeling to think that people could come around you like that, right, when you're red hot on the run.
And it was all over every news bulletin. Was first thing there. People are going, "Yeah, mate."
So got a bloody celebrity in the house.
So proud of you, mate. It's a fucking honour to have you here, mate. And the kids are in going, "Yes," you know what I mean? My uncle Russell escaped from prison. Like, they could go and share that at news at school and nothing would have happened. Like,
no. Yeah, the same thing happened 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. But Trevor got out as well, and and the people, and everywhere we went, it was and it was like, kids would come up and say, "Oh, Dad said to say the coppers are 3 streets away." And we're getting like blow by blow updates anywhere the coppers were. They had no hope of getting us there, because then people they had nothing but love for us. So I say to my mate, "Mate, I need a kit." A kit means a shotgun, balaclava, a slide hammer to steal a car with.
Yep.
20 minutes. Car pulls up. A 10-year-old kid runs in. "Oh, Dad said he's the kid. Can you just return it?"
It's like borrowing a book from the library, bro. The bank robber starter kit.
Yeah, the kit. And
how good.
Anyway, that was like, we escaped on a Wednesday. I remember it was a Wednesday. It was the 12th, and then I said, we're going to rob a bank, and because we obviously needed some coin, I went back and robbed the National Australia Bank at Turramurra where I'd taken the security guard's gun off him previously. He seen me coming. He went, "Oh, fuck."
The same one that you were already in
on
remand for.
Yeah. He see me coming. He goes, "Fuck, not again."
I'd heard you mention that story when I at that Bad Writers Festival, and it couldn't help but think you've obviously got there's a sense of humour to you, right?
Yeah, we look like Robin Hood. We had these pants. They were like men in tights. It's a fucking 38-degree day.
What made you decide to go back and do the same bag?
Good on. He seemed like a nice bloke,
yep.
And he said to me, he goes, "I'm going to lose my job." I said, "I'll give you a reference." He went, "What?" And I was just like, me and him were old mates.
Again. Yeah.
He was going, me and him were old mates, and it was like, so that would have been about 14th, 15th of December.
All your banks seem to be the North Shore of Sydney, right?
I don't want to rob the poor areas.
Yeah. That was a hot spot, right? That was good money there in the banks.
Yeah, for sure. I just, I don't know if it was that Robin Hood effect or anything like that, but I just thought, I didn't shit in my own backyard.
Yep.
And I didn't. That was always the approach. Anytime I stole cars or anything from over that way, and the North Shore people, I do love you guys, and you listen to my podcast and buy the book. I've changed my ways. I don't do that stuff no more. But
I grew up on the North Shore, so you're all right by me, mate.
Yeah, I like going over there. But anyway, it was my favourite place to go.
Yep.
And it was always a Porsche or two handy too. So
yep.
Anyway, and on the way out, I looked at this guy and he looked so sad, this Vietnamese security guard, and I just give him his gun back. And he looked at me, he's looking at me, I'm looking at him.
Were the bullets still in it?
Yeah, the bullet's still in it.
Fucking hell, you just knew he wasn't going to do it.
And I said, "Merry Christmas." And I ran off the street. He's just looking at it like in a daze. Like,
couldn't believe it.
Fuck. And that bank's now closed. I don't know if I had anything to do with it, but
well, to be fair, I mean, a lot of banks are closing these days. Yeah. It'd be very hard to be a bank robber in 2023.
Yeah. Well, we went and stayed at the Hilton, and Nike just brought out the slogans, "Just do it," and I thought, wow, that was pretty cool. So just everything go out, just Nike, just do it, and went for a jog that night. Me and Brett. Still all over the news, they were looking for us, and went for a jog up the cross, jog through there, and they just do it.
You're one of Australia's most wanted, and you're just running around with your face out. Yeah,
the cross. We're just doing 10K run.
Just what was the feeling? You just didn't give a fuck. You were just too high on the excitement of the robbery.
And the drugs and after the bank, we went back and shouted some people, like the people who give us the kick, give them a couple of grand, and just looked after people who had harvests, because that was always part of the deal. You know what I mean?
Of course.
Because my mate said, "Oh, we'll go." And I said, "No, you go back and do the right thing by them people, because they looked after us."
Got to know how to say thank you.
Yeah, and that was always part of who I am. I always acknowledge those people for their generosity and kindness. Right or wrong, I always do that, because they came from a good place. They wanted me to be well. So we went back and give them some money and bought the kids presents and all that sort of stuff, and then went on our merry way and went down to Hilton, went jogging through the cross. And it was funny because when we jogged across, we went up to Hyde Park, and we could see all these cop cars flying through the cross looking for us. It was like, fuck. And they're fair income, them guys. And then we went to Perth the next day. We jumped on a plane to Perth. You could just walk to the airport and buy a ticket, first class ticket.
How good?
Yeah, just no ID, no nothing. Flew over there and went to the Parmelia Hilton in Perth, and jogging up to the Royal Perth Yacht Club of a morning and having breakfast with all the fucking well-to-do people.
You guys were having a great old time.
Yeah, it's great. Fucking hell. And we had a ball over there, and then we took some amphetamines, and things go fucking bad. Like I'm not built for shit. I'm not built. Me and amphetamines, it's just an immediate dose of fucking madness from in there, paranoia, and then we tried to go back to the plane, and at the airport at Perth, and he said, "What's your name?" I said, "Burnham." And he said, "What's your last name?" I said, "Burnham." He said, "You tell me your name's Burnham." Burnham? He's a fucking artist. I said, "That's me." That's
the worst made-up name I've ever heard. Burnham.
And he's an Aboriginal artist, and this bloke's looking at me. And anyway, I was talking to security, and then I said, "Fucking," and my mate said, "Let's get the fuck out of here." So we got out of there. Went for a bus ride to Broome, and then from Broome over to Darwin. And the first night in Darwin, we're in this club, and my mate walks over to this, and he goes, "Hey, Russell, this girl's name's Tammy. She works in the bank. Isn't she beautiful?"
Yep.
I said, "She's gorgeous. She's stunning."
And was she?
No, but nice. Yeah. One of those ones with a good personality.
Yep.
And turns out to be. But You know, and she told us all about the rundown of fucking the bank that she worked in. We had every intentions of robbing that because we had the inside mail.
Yeah.
We thought we'd do a warm-up run, and I underestimated how small Darwin was. Like, I come from Sydney.
Yeah.
Darwin's 70,000 people at that stage, mate, you know. And
Tiny.
if you farted out of tune, fucking they'd bring in a task force. And anyway, so we robbed this bank. We stole a car. It was the only yellow RX-7 in the whole of Northern Territory, and it belonged to some personality.
Yeah, okay. So it was an easy car
And
to spot.
everyone knew, and everyone's waving at us.
Yeah, if he's not driving it, they know something's wrong,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Everyone's waving. So, we robbed that bank, and then I took Brett to the airport the next day, and they were looking for him because they'd seen something. They'd seen one of his tattoos on his knuckles, and that's what they were looking for. And they dragged him off that plane, and I was going to be on another plane, but we're going to meet up in Sydney. And and then I jumped in the car, followed him to the police station. He never jumped out and ran inside to go. So I drove 400 k's out of Darwin to a place called Mataranka. And I spotted a bus, and I jumped on that. I had no luggage, no nothing. I looked red hot. And this bus driver was all over me. He was all over me, like he had one of these fucking bus phones, and it was like that all night. But anyway.
So what? There would have been already a call out. There's going to be this guy that's on the run. Keep an eye out for a guy with no fucking luggage.
No luggage.
Yep.
Had a good description of me.
Yep.
But I pulled in a place called Pine Creek, and I bought a pair of second-hand hike. I just knew I had to change my look.
Yeah.
I had to look like a backpacker as much as I could, and I bought the Cobra hat with the corks on it, the I Love Australian T-shirt, a pair of bus driver pants, shorts, and hiking boots, and that. Sort of doing my best to blend in like a backpacker. But
I've seen like photos of you when you were young. Did you have like very blonde hair?
Yeah, really blonde hair. Yeah, I had really a big flock of blonde hair. I wish I had it now. But anyway, turkey will change that. A good dose of turkey and a hair transplant. But anyway, and I was sitting next to this girl, and I had money. I had about 10 grand in a bag, and I said, "Oh, when we get there, I'll take you this fucking 5." Because she's going, but she goes, "Oh, I'd love that." And she was like a Norwegian tourist. You know?
Yep.
And then we jump off the bus.
And you were just thinking it looks good for me to be with someone else, right? Yeah. Just to throw them
to
off
blend
the
in.
scent. Yeah.
To blend in, you know. And anyway, I'm fucking jumping off this bus. I was half asleep, and I was jumping. There was a big crowd around at the bus, and as I jumped off, they just pounced all over me. So I went into what are you doing? What is it? I'm looking at that girl. She's looking at me like, what the fuck's going on? I said, Helga, call the embassy. I am being bullied. I'm being attacked. Get off me. Screaming my head off, and they're going, fucking diplomatic incident here. You know what I mean?
You made them even question themselves for a second.
Oh, they did. You could see that, we got the right bloke here. You know what I mean? Oh, fuck, well, this ain't good for tourism. And this old copper called Les Smith, he was a boxing trainer. He ended up being a really good bloke. He didn't try verbal or anything.
But he just saw right through your bullshit.
He's got the roll, and he's like, oh, fuck, geez, that's close. Oh, fuck, we might have the wrong bloke here. Knowing full well that it wasn't.
Yeah.
He goes, you've got a tattoo on your right-hand shoulder. He goes, okay, Sven from Sweden. He goes, if you haven't got a tattoo of a shoulder, a bluebird on your right shoulder, he goes, you'll be on your way.
You must, as soon as you heard that, you're thinking, I'm fucked.
I'm fucked. Heart sank. I got prison food.
The accent drops pretty quick after that.
I went, yeah. He lifted up and he goes, oh, I said, fucking nice try. And he goes, why? Not bad. He goes, well, yeah. He goes, you would have been on your way. And anyway, I went to Darwin. I got moved back up to Darwin. They flew me up to Darwin, and mate, that whole prison up there, they just thought it was their job to punish me. It was like, we'll show you this city slicker that fucking us people from the bush here fucking, you know, won't take their shit. And you know, I went straight to segregation until we acclimatised to the jail.
How long were you in Segro for?
Just 2 weeks from when I got there.
Yeah.
Just to acclimatise. And in that time, my brother committed suicide, so they've come in and they said, oh, no, just so brutal, these people. There's no compassion. And they go, hey, you got a brother Stephen? I said, yeah. And he said, mate, well, he's dead. And slammed the door on my face. And there was no phone calls, no nothing. And it was pretty tough. And I was dealing with that. And then they wanted to start playing games. So they let us out into the normal population. And then you used to eat in dining halls and dining rooms. Yeah. And this bloke froze this fucking jam container out on the grass one day. And I seen him do it. And the screw says, pick it up. I say, I'm picking it up. I never threw it. And then locked in my cell for 2 weeks. And I go, okay. So I come out. I'm out one day. I've seen the screw talk to the same bloke and tell him to do it. So he done it again. So fucking.
So the point was to throw the jam, make it look like you'd done it. So then when you didn't pick it up, they could punish
me. Yeah. So they had this thing about
fucking petty fucking.
Yeah, they just were. They were. And then, so when he done it, the screw said, "Go make your way to your cell. You're getting locked up for 2 weeks." And I seen the bloke had done it, so I just fucking hammered him and poured a big fucking pot of tea over his head. And then they said, "That's it." And they put me in proper segregation, like real hardcore segregation, where I was locked in my cell 23 hours a day. In darkness, no mattress, no nothing. I've done that for 9 months. And then...
did you have anything to read?
Nothing. No, it's just fucking like people talk about meditating, mate. That's fucking what I was doing. I didn't even want to do it.
That's what I was going to ask, was how did you keep your mind from going loopy like during that?
What I was doing was learning how to slow my mind down.
Yeah.
How to slow it down. But the entertainment come a bit later. One day they opened my cell and I seen him. They got the camera. They got a broom under the camera, pushing it up to the sky. Going, ooh, this sounds interesting. Sort of, and it was any sort of excitement, any sort of stimulation, I was always going to embrace. And one of them said, "How'd you feel about having a one-on-one with old mate? He don't like you." And I'd say, "Fuck, I'm there with bells on."
These are screws.
Yeah. I said, "Not a problem." And he said, "But the only problem is, if anyone hits the ground, you don't kick. You don't punch, you don't bite or anything like that." Said,
that just shows how bored they are as well.
Yeah.
That's how they're getting the kicks.
So they wanted to test themselves against me. And, you know, I think I was about 3 or 4-0 before I got a loss. And that was good. That felt good. Bit of chest beating.
Yeah.
But then they went away and trained for me. And then they started coming back and getting better. And that's when it got boring. I was like, fucking hell. I don't like this. I don't like losing. Went on for about, I don't know, went on for about 5 of the 9 months. And then I just realised how much joy that...
So you're just bouncing between, this fucking like gladiator academy where you're brawling, or otherwise you're just in 23 hours of darkness.
Yeah.
That's fucking brutal, man.
Yeah. I was in the gladiator pit. That was my excitement. But I used to come out like a cage and I was like, yeah!
Fuck. I mean, you know,
in a pair of fucking stubbies. No shirt, no shoes. And, you know, I really embraced it initially, and then I'd be thinking of things, and and part of the entertainment for me after that was I'd think what I'd done.
Yeah.
So part of the thing was what I was going to do better next time. It was like fight camp.
Yeah.
But I got to the point where I realised that they were getting more joy out of it than I was.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, I'm giving these animals too much joy.
Satisfaction they want.
And I said, I'm not doing it no more. Anyway, one day they opened up the cell and I didn't come rushing out like a fucking cage fucking baboon. And they're looking, fucking thinking I was up to a trick. I was up to a new trick on them. And then one popped in. He goes, "What's going on?" I said, "I'm not doing it no more." And he said, "What's that?" And he said, "Why'd you give up?" I said, "No, don't give up. Never give up." I said, "You guys are getting too much joy out of it." And he goes, "I'm just not doing it no more," because that's what you had to say in the first place. I said, "Fuck, you offered."
Yeah. Yeah. It's your idea.
Yeah. And so that's what you had to do. And all the nurses and that were in it. You go down with a black eye, a split eye, and then they'd say, "Did you do yourself a mischief?" Go, "Yeah, of course I did." Yeah. And I just fucking shake it off. And then they're always constantly saying, "Oh, do you want some medication? Like, you need some Valium to keep you quiet." And I just got really paranoid of that. And I said, they're trying to numb me. I said, "Nah." They said, "Well, you need anything?" And then I started saying like drugs you couldn't ever get. And I'd said, "Yeah, what about morphine?" "Oh, yeah, how much of that do you want?"
Wow.
Like anything that I would have wanted, they would have been willing to give me.
But you didn't accept it?
No, I didn't accept it because I just thought, fucking, they're trying to weaken me. They're trying to weaken me so they can make me vulnerable. So I didn't trust them. And then one day, about 2 o'clock in the morning, I heard these fucking handcuffs going off. I'm going, "Oh, shit. They're here to kill me." Because, man, they were killing people up there. I don't care what anyone says. Back in the day, Aboriginal deaths in custody is fucking real. They were hanging them up there. And they were fucking hanging them up there. I'm telling you, I was fucking as real as I'm standing here.
Well, there's that piece in your book where you talk about nearly getting stitched up for murder, that they were planning to kill you.
Yeah, they'll plan. Even when I went to court, I'll just go back a bit. One day, there was a screw up there called Tunny. He was a good bloke. He was a boxer. And he was one of the ones that didn't get involved in the bash. And he didn't. I find the ones that can fight have got nothing to prove. Like, there's another screw called Dino Billinghurst from Long Bay. He's got a boxing background. He went into bashing people. This bloke was the same. Anyway, some bloke tried setting him up, saying he was bringing him pot, and the bloke was in the Segro one day, and I called him and I said, "Hey, listen, don't do that." I said, "He's a good bloke." I said, "Fucking, he's been really good to me." And he heard it on the intercom. He heard it on the intercom. And then one day I was going to court, and he said to the other screw, go away. And I was walking me down. He goes, today you're going to go to court. He said, I'll tell you what's going to happen. He said, the fucking roller door's going to come up from the court. He said, the back door of the fucking van's going to come open. He said, if you run out in the street, they're going to fucking blow your head off. And I told my mate, and he goes, of course it is. And I was saying, there it is. And he said, fucking let's go. I said, no, fuck that. And anyway, about 5 minutes later, screws coming back, and the cop was coming around and go, what are you still doing here? I said, I'm not fucking stupid. I know what you're up to. I know you're trying to kill me. And they go, mate, you're paranoid. And they're laughing their heads off, and no, it didn't work. So I was forever grateful to that bloke for doing that for me.
Saved your life.
He saved my life. But, you know, I'm actually saved his career.
Yeah.
But it was a bit of give and take. But
it's pretty fucking dirty shit, isn't it? Just like, this is how we're going to get our kicks, is just set it up so these guys think that they're sweet for an escape, and then shoot them as soon as they get out.
Yeah, blow them away. And some fucking redneck cowboy, like, they were allowed to, in our court case for our committal hearing, they were allowed to sit in court, and that's never been done before in the Northern Territory. They were sitting in court with guns. Not allowed to do it, you know, but they were fucking pretty nasty. But one day, after I got sentenced to 9 years when on parole, a period of 5 years. The biggest sentence ever handed out for a non-murder in the Northern Territory. Non-murder. And so one day, I had to serve 5 years. I was a monster. And they were using comparative sentences where it was a home invasion, there was 2 rapes and shit.
So not comparative at all?
No. And I was saying to the barrister, how can you allow that to happen? I said, there was no rapes in our armed robbery, you know.
Meanwhile, sex offenders are getting fuck all, and you're getting that.
It's crazy. It's crazy what they get, especially up so much up there too. Yeah. Sex offenders are just lucky to even get sentenced. But you know, if a person gets pinched for vagrancy, it gets 3 months. You know, it's crazy. But so one morning at 3 o'clock in the morning, I hear the handcuffs going off, and go, oh, here we go. And the deal was, they come to the cell door, and I have to go and spread eagle on the back wall, like my hands so back facing them. And they said, up on the wall. I said, go fuck yourself. I said, I'm not fucking, you ain't doing that. And they said, you're here. I said, I'm not going to let you kill. I said, you're going to come and kill me. I said, you come in there going, what do you mean fucking kill you? I said, you're coming here to kill me. I said, yeah. I said, you know, I'll fight. And they said, no. I said, get Tunny here. He was the screw up truck. And they said, fucking get Tunny, he's asleep. I said, get him here. So there was a Mexican standoff for about an hour and a half, and Tunny fucking whispered me, thanks, mate, you got me a heap of overtime. He said, I appreciate it. And he said, I'm on double time now, so let's take our time.
Yeah.
So he said, Russell, it's sweet. You go and escort to Alice Springs. And I said, yeah, sweet. So put the handcuffs and leg shackles at that stage, and I had handcuffs, leg shackles, and I went everywhere with a dog.
Fucking hell.
And I had everywhere with a dog. And anyway, so I get down to reception. There's a little fella from Queensland called Gary Roberts, just a fucking fight monkey. Would love anything. It was funny because we got put on a van, and prison van, and then a dog squad car behind us, and we were driving from Darwin, Alice Springs. That's 1,850 k's in a fucking van.
Wow. Yeah.
And we pulled in his first service station. He looked like Slickety Sam. He had a 357 Magnum on his hip. He meant business. And he opened the door and he said, hey, what do you eat? What do you want? And Grobbo's going off. He said, fuck off, you fucking dog. Like it's been a G up.
Yep.
And he said, fuck off, you fucking dog.
That would be your immediate thought, right?
Yeah.
He was just fucking with you.
And I thought, I'm going to run with this. I said, I'll have a 2-litre fucking thing of milk, bacon and egg roll, and a couple of fucking Snickers bars. Well, he come back.
With all your loot.
Yeah, he come back with it. And because I'd never eaten good food in ages. And Robbo said, where's mine? He said, just apologise and I'll go and get it. And he goes, no, I'm not apologising. I said, just fucking apologise. There's plenty of food to eat. And he did. And they were so cool to us, man. Like we got to we got to a place called Catherine. That's the redneck wonderland in Australia, mate. That's it. Anyway, the coppers, screws were giving us some oranges, and he said, don't waste your good fucking fruit on them fucking animals. And then my little mate Robbo's going off his head, and he's leg shackled, and we're leg cuffed together, and he's going, I'll fucking kill you, can't I fucking kill you?
Set him off.
Little fight monkey. And and then the screw walks over and starts handcuffing him, and the copper's going, what are you doing? He goes, mate, you want to start trouble with them? And he goes, mate, we've got to take him another fucking 1,500 Ks yet, mate. And he goes, we need him to be calm and collect. We don't need this shit. He goes, I'll let him off. You two sort your shit out. And like that's just how it was done in the territory. 2 men will knock it out, sort it out, and then we'll be on our way. We'll put the handcuffs back on him, win, lose or draw.
Just a different world.
Yeah. And the cop was going, no, you can't do that. And he goes, well, apologise. He goes, I'm not apologising. He goes, well, I'll take the handcuffs off it. In fact. He goes, yeah, well, I'm sorry. I'm fucking sorry. And he goes, yeah, say it like you mean it. I'm really sorry. And then handcuffs go back on and off we go. But we got to Alice Springs and, man, that was like, fuck, an eye-opener, man. Me and him were the only white fellas there. Oh, and there was one other bloke who was a rapist, so he didn't count. So we didn't talk to him. But
and how long were you in Alice Springs for?
About 2 years.
Yeah.
It was interesting because my little mate who went with me, he said, mate, I'm escaping. He said, you coming? I said, have you got a helicopter or a plane? I said, because we're not getting out of it. We're in Alice Springs.
Yep.
And he said, no. He said, but you can steal cars. I said, yeah, but you're just not going to get out of here. And him and another bloke fucking they just spent a couple of days cutting their way through the back fucking thing. It was pretty easy. You could pole vault the fence of that joint with a fucking rake.
Yeah.
It was only that fucking high.
But then where do you go?
Where do you go?
Yeah.
But anyway, so I said, nah. Anyway, I knew I was escaping, and I just said to the screw, I just want to go to myself for a lay down. I just wanted to be in a position where I'll be right and without unearthing them. So I went to my cell and I could hear this big commotion. And I could hear him. He was up on the wall, and they're going, Robinson, come down. He goes, and I could look out my window, and he saluted. He goes, yeah, I'll do that. And he jumped over the other side of the wall. It was fun, quite romantic, and ran away. And all they were interested was me. And the superintendent come in and said, fucking, where's Manser? And they said, oh, he's in his cell. And they've opened the door, and I said, what are you still doing here? I said, fucking, I can't fly a helicopter.
They were surprised and disappointed that you were still there.
Yeah. And that was really, and he said, and he called me in his office. He said, did you know I was going to? I said, fucking oath I did.
Yeah.
He said, were you part of it? I said, no, not really.
Did Robbo get far?
He was away for about 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
But he come back. I remember the shirt he had on. He knocked it off someone's clothesline. It was 2 states to be in, Queensland and pissed. I remember that shirt vividly. And the other bloke who went with him by this stage had turned up to jail, and he was this bloke that had that real pale skin, like white skin with a bright red hair. And his skin was that badly sunburned, it was blue.
Yeah, well, Alice Springs, I imagine, is pretty brutal. The sun there, right?
Fucking February, March out there. But and what happened? They were out near the desert, and they started hallucinating. And the Aboriginal trackers got him. Yeah. And he reckons, Robbo was saying, as soon as he said, I fucking hugged him. He said, yeah. He said, I couldn't wait to get back to jail.
That's right. The trackers saved their life.
Yeah, saved their lives. And things just changed for me in that jail. Like, he realised he didn't want to run away, give me a job in the kitchen, allowed me to train and stuff like that. And, he was Mr. Bonning. I'm forever grateful for it because he treated me like a human, give me some empathy and compassion. And eventually, I get sent back to New South Wales and face the charges of the escape. And by that stage, it was 5 armed robberies in total.
Yep.
And went to court, and I got sentenced. I remember going to court at Penrith, and it was this judge, and he was like, fucking man. They called him Slipper Saunders because he liked to put the boot in. And it was just like something out of a horror movie. And you go in on a sentence indication, like they go, oh, we're willing to offer you this if you plead guilty. And that's this day. Anyway, I walk in, and he's not in the court. The next minute, he just pops up from underneath the bench. It's like he'd been asleep under the bench.
What the fuck?
And he's licking his lips. He goes,
Jack in the box.
And he goes, ow. He said, I believe a sentence has been put to the accused. And he goes, I believe it's a fair sentence. And he's licking his lips going, fucking no way. And I said, the barrister, nah, fuck, tell him to punch. I said, the words I used so he could hear it, I said, tell him to punch his sentence indication up his arm. Pleading not guilty.
You sound like he might enjoy it.
Yeah. And he was like, well, I believe it's a fair sentence. He goes, and if you get found guilty, you'll get a bottom of 20 years. I said, yeah, we'll fucking see that. I'll be fucking escaping before then.
Yeah.
Anyway, I went back to the jail, and I was a bit emotional, and there was a bloke there who was good mates with a barrister at the time who later became the head judge at the Downing Centre called Peter Zara. And he said, oh, mates with this bloke. He said he can help you out and he'll get you a good result. And then Peter Zara come and visit me, and he said, mate, I'll take your case on. And he showed me a bit of a game plan. He goes, mate, just get the coppers in and admit to a car steal or something somewhere. He said, we need to get you away from that judge. So pleaded guilty at Burwood, get into Parramatta District. And when I went back to that judge, I said, mate, well, I got these other charges. I'm willing to plead guilty. And I had him on a checkmate. So you had to send him to get it heard at Parramatta.
Yep.
And Peter Zara come in and said, mate, how would you? He goes, I think we can get you 6 years on the bottom. Meaning you'll have to serve 6 years. Yep. He said, but there's a deal on the table today, and it's 15 with an 8, non-parole period of 8. I said, I'll take it. I'll take it. And I did. And I got pleaded guilty, and I got 15 with an 8, and I was fucking cheering. And I went on and served the 8, but I got clean too. A bloke called Greg Richards who had been doing Narcotics Anonymous meetings, and it changed my life. And I got clean, and I had a plan, and I had no plans of getting back in trouble. And the problem was I just never dealt with the trauma. But I was clean and got out of jail, and I got a job up at the Northern Rivers as a fitness instructor at a Japanese jockey school, which was quite nice, and that was a good job. And then I met the mother of my children. We set up a bit we went away from there and set up a telemarketing business. I bought a house at Corumba, and I had a successful. But the underlying issue of the abuse was festering for years and years, unchallenged.
And so, how did you? There were times where you were trying to dull that with drugs, but there were times when you weren't using drugs.
I was 12 and a half years clean before I picked up.
So how are you managing those demons? Right,
man, that was tough going. I was going I really emaciated myself in work, which I still do today. I do that really badly today. And, I was doing a lot of Narcotics Anonymous meetings. I was obviously physical. Training has always been a big part of my life. It's my antidepressant.
So that certainly resonates with me in terms of things that I've found that are a good substitute for the drugs was exercise and just staying busy. I think are just two ones that I found really effective to just keep out of the bad places in your head. So that was working for a while.
Well,
right?
for a while, but then it was just like, my home life wasn't good. I was with someone that was never satisfied. And I was making fucking enormous money. She was never satisfied with what I was making. And so I was living this life that was unfulfilled. And, and then that in itself allows the trauma to come back in. And it wasn't long before I was using, I was drinking, and I relapsed on the heroin. And it took 10 years for me to get back. It took me 10 years after to come back. I ended back in jail for most of that 10 years. And then Julia Gillard, the best Prime Minister this country's ever seen, brought in the Royal Commission of Institutional Responses to Child Sexual Abuse, which challenged all the way by the LNP, which later found unveiled a lot of the LNP people and benefactors.
So what did you do to get sent back to prison after 12 years of?
I robbed this time, I was the bottom of the barrel. I robbed the fucking chemist. My mate come out of there and go, there's about 50 grand on the counter. I said, well, there's not, and I'm about to take it. And I went back in there and robbed that. And, I got a little sentence. I got like 2 or 3 years. And then, I got out. I was out for 8 months, and I'd done like a fucking tab, like just bottom of the barrel. Like my other armed robberies were at the professional end of the scale,
Yeah.
But these ones were the bottom of the barrel ones. There was a massive de-escalation. There weren't loaded shotguns or balaclavas. There was just fucking hit and miss shit, and quite embarrassing, really.
Was that because you were just like you were a mess? You were just you were on drugs. You were just what was it? I just didn't care. And sometimes when I look back on it, and I think it was a bit of a cry for help. Like I just. I think it was a cry for help. But it sounds like crime, and I've heard of this before. Just you were doing crimes that were almost like self-sabotage. Like you weren't doing a particularly good job of being a crim to the point where you just the writing's on the wall that you're going to get caught at some point.
100%. It was. I've got that self-sabotage. I call it self-sabotaging gene. I've got it badly, and that's what I was doing. And I get out for 8 months and I really struggle. Like in the past, I've been the type of person who lands on my feet really well. It's been said that I'll throw my hand up a toilet and pull out a gold Rolex. That's the type of guy I am.
That's a pretty handy skill to have. Yeah.
But there was fucking not even a Seiko up the toilet. You know what I mean? When I was putting my hand up there,
and the luck had run out.
Yeah, the luck had run out, and I was thinking, fuck, And anyway, long story short, the Royal Commission came in. I was on a plane up to no good going over to Perth, and a bloke told me about the Royal Commission that Julia Gillard had brought in, and And you know, and then what happened? I got pinched. I robbed a bank, Commonwealth, not the Commonwealth, Suncorp Medway Bank in Coolangatta, and I come out of there and I just got jumped by some super citizens, and one of them was saying, "I just saved your life," and I was thinking, "Fuck it. Can you stop punching him in the fucking back of the head?"
Yeah, it doesn't feel like you saved my life. Sounds like you're trying to end it, right?
Yeah, and there's a bit of a story to it. Anyway, I had every intentions of going to prison and knocking myself, and you know, I had it all thought out. You know, I'd get in there, get the coaxial cable, and fucking hang myself. And I got to the prison, the coaxial cable wouldn't have wrapped around my fucking toe, let alone my neck, because it had been.
It was too short.
Yeah, so I had to put it off, So the next day, bloke, and they got display windows in the cells in Queensland, and like I think Parkley's got the same. Anyway, bloke comes up to my cell, who I suspected of being a sex offender, and it was later confirmed he was, but he denied it all that time. And he said, "Oh, I know you and I haven't seen eye to eye in the past." He said, "But he offered me a shot." He said, "You know, this is a peacemaker." And I looked at him in sheer utter disgust, and I banged on the window. I said, "No matter how bad I was going, I could never take an ink off you because you're a piece of shit." And I said, "You ever offer me anything again, I will fucking bash you to an inch of your life."
Yeah.
And he just whizzed off like some ghost.
And so it must have felt good that at least you still had that self-respect, you know.
Well, integrity. I think that integrity, having that integrity. And then I walked out, and there's a bloke there. I'll mention his name. His name was Casey, and he had all of these fucking books on the desk. And I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm doing a psych degree." And he goes, "I took your advice those years ago." And he just walked me up and down in disdain and said, "Maybe you should take your own advice." And I went, "Ooh."
That's a harsh truth, but yeah.
And then I had a mate of mine who I helped him establish his law firm. He just came out, visit me straight. I got a legal visit, and he said to me, he goes, because I thought, you know, maybe 10 or 12 years I was going to get this time. But I think the courts had had enough of me, and he said, "How about 4 years?" He said, "You reckon you can handle doing that?" And I said, "Oh, I can do that in a heartbeat." So a few things had changed within that 24 hours. I talk to people about it all the time. I say, you know, you're feeling suicidal, you plan, just put it off for 24 hours because a lot can change, you know. And I did, and it did. And you know, so I got back to my cell that night. I felt I had integrity. I wouldn't take something over 6 months. I'd done something that changed the kid's life. I give him some advice that changed his life. So it sparked something in me, you know, some hope. And
a lot can happen in 24 hours. You went from this dark, obviously you've got to be in a very dark place to decide you're going to do that. But then a couple of little things can just, that little glimmer of hope can be enough for you to think, actually, maybe this,
I
this
liked
is not
myself. I liked what I'd done.
Yeah.
I went, you know what, I'm not that bad. And the self-talk went from being a piece of shit, you've done this, you've done that, to, you know what, I've done some okay, I'm not a bad person. And that's was the beginning of it. And then I flicked the TV on one night and seen the 7:30 report, and they were going after George Pell, and I thought the Royal Commission, that was, of institutional responses to child sexual abuse, going after George Pell, and I thought, fuck, they're fair income. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to write a fool's cap paper, run sheet, what happened to me, when it happened. And I said, I'll send it. You know what? And if it can just be the beginning of the healing journey, whether they do anything or not. And then my friend gave me the address. I wrote to him, sent it. 2 weeks later, someone calls me out, and I forgot all about it. And I thought, you know.
What did it feel like just when you wrote the words on a piece of paper?
It was good. It was part of it. Like, it was so healing.
Was that one of the first times you'd ever, like, told this story?
Yeah. It was. I wrote it, and I read it about 100 times.
Yeah.
And it was like, but when you read it, you're replaying it. And I was going, but my intentions was to read it and make peace with it. And then just part of posting that letter was to let it go. And that was my mindset on it. And then,
well, it sounds like you must have let it go at some point. It's in some way, if you forgot that you'd done it for a little while.
Yeah, for about 2 weeks. And I didn't remember posting a letter. Anyway. So 2 weeks later, I get called for a legal, and as you know, in prison, you get called for a legal visit. It's normally never good news. It's normally the fucking coppers have got more charges or whatever. So this woman goes, "Oh, my name's Michelle Burford, her name was." She goes, "I'm from the Royal Commission." And I said, "Oh, okay, what do you want with me?" And she said, "Oh, we've got your letter." And I went, "Oh, yeah, that's right." And she goes, "Look, we want to tell you from the word go, we believe you because your story matches up to what other people have told us. In actual fact, your name's been mentioned."
Yeah.
And I went, yeah, sweet. And then I told my story, a bit of a chat with them, and then straight away from there they just give me a trauma counselling, and I'd done trauma counselling with that woman for 4 years. I never moved or anything like that. So, you know, it was the beginning of the healing journey, and I started telling my story. And then one day I was in jail in North Queensland, and I'm on the phone to Royal Commission. And, you know, you got 50 blokes in the yard, and everyone knows what's being said on that phone.
And you're saying some interesting stuff.
Yeah. And it drew the attention of a couple of young blokes who were just fucking dumb, fucking uneducated idiots. And they thought I was talking to the coppers. And so I could see them whispering to people and people looking over at me. And I was sort of forced in a position where I called a yard meeting, 60 blokes, and I told them, I said, mate, I ain't talking to coppers. I'm talking to Royal Commission about things that happened to me. I said, anyone's got a problem with it, mate, well, let's just fucking sort it out, and then and so be it. And, mate, fucking 60 blokes fucking clapped and cheered, said, good on you, mate, fucking love your honesty. Before I left that jail, 64 blokes told me about the abuse they happened. So it was the beginning of the birth of my organisation, the Voice of a Survivor. That's where it was like, and then talking to lawyers and psychs and everything, and to the Royal Commission, they said, you just got this natural thing about you where people feel free and easy. And you have like a platform for people to tell their stories on. I
think, I mean, obviously your bravery in being able to talk about it has shown other people, hey, if Russell can talk about it, maybe I can too. And also because you've lived it, they feel more comfortable in talking to you specifically. But perhaps you're the first. I'm sure for a lot of people, you're the first person they've ever opened up to.
Heaps. Get that all the time, and that's a common denominator, as a common theme, as people say. You're the first person I've ever told it to. I've heard your story, and your stories inspire me to talk to mine. I get it all the time. Even today, you know, on social media, when I get that many people inbox me, I'll get like up to four people a day telling me their story. I'd have some there now. And so, yeah, and then, you know, and I was recognised by the Royal Commission as an advocate. And then I got an interstate transfer to New South Wales. It was 2 weeks from getting out. And coppers turned up 6 old bank robberies for me. I was getting paroled to a rehab. I was like, dude.
Fuck.
And I went, fuck.
Must have shattered you.
And then I seen, there was a thing on the Dundale Royal Commission about, there was a lawyer up there called Peter O'Brien. He's got an office here, and I really liked the look of him. I contacted him because I knew I was getting a compensation payout, and I said, I'm getting this payout. You know, and
so that's a compensation from the government because of the
abuse that I suffered, yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to pay out. It wasn't anything extraordinary, but it was enough, you know, and it was enough to be, and I had every intentions of, you know, investing it in myself, either, you know, through trauma counselling or something to do to better myself, you know.
I wanted to ask you about those compensations. Like, so, what are the certain boxes that need to be ticked for you to qualify for compensation?
You've got to be able to prove that you're there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You've got to be able to sort of give an indication who the perpetrator was.
Yeah.
It goes on probability. Like if you say you were there and, you know, and it doesn't really check out you weren't, but if you say you were there and 10 other people say they were there, it was based on probability that you were there. Because
that was something that jumped to me that I wanted to ask, because when I was in Parklee, I had this guy come up to me, an inmate with a clipboard, and he goes, bum money, right? And he goes, yeah, put your name down and just say that you got sexually assaulted, like at a prison.
So rotten.
And I said, but I wasn't sexually assaulted. He goes, oh, it doesn't matter. Just put your name down and you'll get a payout, $150,000. I go, but that's an insult to the guys that actually had anything happen to them.
100%.
Right? And so I wanted to ask you about that. I mean, have you had experiences with someone where you've thought that perhaps that they weren't genuine about their experience?
100%. I'll tell them to get going. I've got a couple of good psychs that won't get past.
Yeah.
If I look, I know one bloke who rang me and he used the terminology, can you colour it in for me, meaning can you make it up? And I said, firstly, I thought it was a recorded phone call and he was trying to set me up. And I just said, it's not something I'm going to do. And you're right. You've got to honour the people who this happened to.
It's scummy behaviour to try and get a payout for when you haven't gone through that trauma. And it's an insult to the horrific things that have happened to these people, like, including yourself.
100%. And it's something it's nothing it's something I can gauge in. But there's been people I've interviewed a guy and I had to say to him, mate, I don't mean to be rude, but I reckon you're talking shit.
Yeah, fuck. It must feel hard for you to even say that when there's even a very slim chance you could be wrong, right? But you got to go with your gut.
Yeah.
So
I've said to one bloke, I said, mate, I'll be honest with you, I don't mean to be rude here. I said, but I think you're talking shit. And he goes, oh, you don't believe me? I said, no, I don't believe you. And it turns out I was right. You know, one of his mates told me he was foolish. He wanted to bash me because fucking I was carrying on like a screw apparently. But anyway, you know, I'm not going to, I think it's your integrity too, you know what I mean? You've got to look people in the eye that you work with.
yeah.
It's your integrity. And I don't want to be associated with that. And
No, well, you deal with so many cases, like most of them that are genuine, right? And so then when you get when you it would make it easier for you to spot a fake, but then also it would make you just angry at these people wanting to even try that, you know.
I've got a couple of good psychs. I got a good psych, and he would just say, mate, he'll ring me and say, that bloke's full of shit. And I'll say, fucking, and he says, but I've told him, I said, that's all I needed, and we can just strike his file off. And
yeah.
But you know, and that's when the voice of us, like, I had to go like to get bail. Like this lawyer came in and he said, "I'll get you bail on these 6 armed robberies." I said, "Man, I can't get bail on fucking shoplifting."
Yeah.
And he got me bail, and I'll tell you, I had this parole officer at that jail do everything to work against me. Rang the rehab that I was getting bailed to, saying you can't take him. He's got new charges. Just went out of his way to fuck me over, but anyway, I ended up, you know, a couple of bucks coming to it, so I could afford good legal representation, and he got me bail in the magistrate's court on fucking 6 robberies, which is unheard of. And then I had to get my parole back, and this parole officer had to come up.
Do you think what worked in your favour at that point was it that there was on record of the abuse and the experiences that you've gone through, and that added to the context of it, or what?
No, I'd done everything I could. Like when I was in jail in Queensland, I'd done everything I could to bring any charges in New South Wales forward. I said, if there's anything there, I'd write to the Attorney General, because I had a parole breach in New South Wales, and they waived that, and I'd done everything I could, and I had it on paper. So when I got before the magistrate, we showed them all these correspondence I had, and they weren't expecting that. And I said, and they said, well, and it's called delay. And it's not illegal, but the judges really frown upon it. And the judge said, this is a clear case of delay. And he said, I'm going to tell you now, I'm going to give him bail.
So delay is when you keep getting out of prison, or your sentence is about to finish, and then they just bring in new stuff to drag on your never-ending stay in prison.
Yeah, they can do that for ages, and unless you get a good judge like I got that day, who weren't going to wear it. So he got me bail, and I went to a rehab up at Coffs Harbour, and then I had more recovery time.
That was a Dell House?
Yeah, Dell House.
Yep.
I had more recovery time than the fucking people fucking running it. So I wasn't really there for rehab. I was there for fucking life skills. I needed to learn some life skills.
Yep. But you would have been an asset to them then.
Yeah, right? I got offered the general manager's job. They offered me $70,000 a year and a brand new Corolla. I said, well, if you give me $70,000 a month and a Bentley, I'll
add some zeros to that. We can talk. Yeah,
we'll talk turkey. But, and it was all fun, but and that's, you know, I got out with every intention of setting up the Voice of a Survivor. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I just knew I was going to do it, and it was in my heart. And went and got a laptop computer, which I fucking didn't even know how to turn on. It looked good for fucking Facebook photos and that, standing behind it. And then,
and so the idea of Voice of a Survivor was to be an organisation where you would help the victims of institutional violence,
sexual and physical abuse,
to get apologies and compensation.
100%, you know, and seek out. But not just that. It was a matter of supporting them through the process. It was a matter of creating a trauma-informed platform for them to be able to tell their story, and to be able to do it and be treated with dignity and respect along the way, and not dealing with unscrupulous law firms that just see them as a commodity. You know, that we initially work with one firm in particular. I don't think I can say their name, who did do that. So we had to cut ties with them, and you know, and I was very vocal at the time of who they were and how they went about things, and they weren't to be trusted.
They're just slimy operators.
Yeah. There's a lot of things in it, like, you know, like I was constantly challenging how much they were charging the client. Like I was saying, mate, this ain't on. I do a lot of that. I still do a lot of that today. Do a lot of that today with law firms, and even people that even ain't my client, I can show them ways to get a reduction in that. So, you know, what'll happen is they will call me and say, you know, they were this abuse and that, and I know when they're fair income or not.
Yeah. So you'll capture their stories and then connect them with a legal team that you think would be appropriate to complete the case.
But then we interview them as well. We will interview them.
Yeah.
We'll get a bit more out of them than a lawyer can get.
Yeah, I bet.
Because they feel relaxed in the environment that we've created for that to happen in. And the lawyers and barristers in particular say, mate, that was pretty good.
Well, also, you walk the walk your entire life, right? You're going to have far more experience, and people know that. They're more likely to open up to you, right, than they would someone who's just a lawyer who can't imagine, who's never had any real life experience with any of this stuff.
100%. You know, there's little things you do, like if I'm doing a face-to-face interview, I'll never wear fucking business attires, all shorts and a t-shirt.
Yep.
Put people at ease. You know, there's certain things you can do in an interview process that you can, like, if you look relaxed in your demeanour, they're going to have a tendency. It's like if you're tense, they're going to be tense.
Yeah.
And it's a matter of getting someone to relax as much as they can. But most of all is making them feel safe, like, because, you know, how do you get someone to be vulnerable? Well, they got to trust you to be vulnerable, you know. And how do you be vulnerable? You've got to be able to trust. You know, that's the big thing. So done a lot of work in creating people to tell their deepest, darkest secrets. You know what I mean? And it's just amazing the healing that happens for this sort of stuff. Someone said to me a couple of months ago, they said, "Russell, you're a healer." And I went, "What the fuck?" I don't get around with a tambourine.
It's a funny label for you, but I mean, it's true though.
Yeah. And when I think about it, look back on it, like 16,500 people. Man, I'll cop that. I'll cop that all day, and I'll cop it with pride.
And how many of those people may not have ever shared their story at all if it wasn't for the work that you started, right?
I don't know. Like that's a good question. But it'd be a fair few, and a lot of them. A lot of people make note of that. They say, you know, we'd never done it unless you'd show it. I've done some good stuff. Like I've been on a whole heap of podcasts, but I've been on Australian Story, which was really good.
Yep.
I mean,
how long have you been out of prison now?
5.5 years.
5.5 years.
Yeah, my record's 6 years, so I'm about to break my record. So,
touch wood.
Yeah, touch wood. Please.
And so almost 6 years out. You've got the voice of a survivor of the organisation. You've got a book. You've got a successful podcast. All this stuff possibly wouldn't have happened if you had topped yourself all those years ago. Do you ever just have a moment to just sit and reflect on just the positive stuff that you're doing with your life now, and just how amazing the turnaround is?
Oh, 100%. I think Gratitude is the conduit to your happiness, and gratitude is the conduit to your peace, and I'm such a grateful human being. I wake up, part of my morning routine is I jump out of bed, I go to my desk, I write my gratitude list. I make my bed, I jump in a cold shower, and I go for a walk, and when I open that door of a morning, I and I know I can go anywhere I want. I'm free. And people like girlfriends or whatever, they're onto it, like, you know what I mean? Because I talk, look at that's amazing, and I live a very grateful life. I think I'm in a really healthy space or place if I'm identifying things that I'm grateful as I see them. Isn't that good? Isn't that nice? Go for a nice walk or eat a nice meal. I'm so fucking grateful for that. And acknowledging that gratitude, I think it's a really important thing to do in life.
Do you ever feel like you still have to be on your toes? You went previously 12 years where you were clean before you fucked, before you ended up.
100%.
That I've seen you talk in a couple of videos on Instagram and stuff about, just how important it is to be careful about the circle and the people that you associate with, because, that can lead to temptation or
and healthy boundaries with people. I think. And you're right. You sit in a barber's chair long enough, you get a haircut. Hang with footballers, you pull on a jersey. I don't hang with those people. I was thinking, the other day I was with a guy, and I think I was with this guy, and he's an inventor, and he's got these flat pack houses. You can knock them up in 3 or 4 days. But he's also he's designed an engine, and that you can. It's powered by carbon dioxide. It'll change the world.
Wow.
And I was thinking, fuck, this bloke's the next fucking Tesla. And here I am, I'm in his company, and I think to myself, when I'm on drugs and dysfunctional, I don't get to be in these people's company. Like that bloke, this bloke will be just something big and special and one day. And I just think, and it's about, water finds its own level. Winners find winners, and just, I don't know, that universal stuff of putting it, your vibration.
I think because the path you're on now, it's opening up so many more doors, and those kind of people are gravitating towards you. And you would lose that, right, by going backwards.
100%.
Back in.
It's credibility. And,
Yeah.
You got credibility. I've interviewed some amazing people on my podcast, and being in their company and just being able to reach them socially.
Yep.
If you're a bottom feeder fucking on drugs and you don't get near them people, they see you and they're fucking, mate, they'll just give you the big cross and it's fucking no thank you.
So when you were in addiction and using heroin as a kind of way to quieten the demons, now, how do you manage that now? Do you find, because obviously I know you talked about sharing your trauma has been something that has helped, but how do you, on a day-to-day basis, how do you kind of manage those feelings now without drugs?
Making peace with it, I think, is really important. You know, I think part of the Australian story was really good for me because we went back to Long Bay, and part of my mental thing was, like I was saying to myself, I'm not going to show these people what I'm doing, but I'm making peace with this. Yeah. A lot of people worried about it, like they'll say, I might be really triggering for you, and I actually made peace with it. But meditation is the whole routine. There's a whole routine, and not forgiving myself. And I talk about resentments. Like resentment's the rust the vessel they're contained in. Having a resentment with someone's like drinking a cup of poison and hoping the other person dies. But I just, I really dealt with that. Really sort of, I've made peace with it. Like, what's the use of resentment's not self-serving. Be dirty on the wall. But what's it do for me? It only just makes me sick. So just making that peace with that sort of thing and allowing, when I make peace with something and I put it to bed, so to speak, I allow positivity and I allow gravitation. I gravitate people into my life.
Would you say you're happy now?
Well, without a doubt, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm living in a good place and I enjoy my own company. I really fucking love my own company. I was like fucking, when people come over sometimes like, yeah, hurry up. Not all the time. I enjoy good company too. I enjoy progressive. I enjoy fascinating people, and it doesn't have to, and then often from the criminal life, I like people who are just
from all walks of life.
Yeah.
What do you do in your spare time when you have any?
I train, obviously training. I do the social media stuff, but that's work. Yeah. But like I listen to a lot of Joe Dispenza at the moment, and Ed Milat, and I like. Joe Dispenza is a fucking neuroscientist, and I was a fucking neuroscientist. Years ago, I was a fucking neuroscientist. What could he teach me? Yeah. But I listen to a lot of educational stuff, stuff that's going to better me. I feel pumped after it. Even Tony Robbins, like he's a bit cliched these days because he's that fucking popular. But
he's great.
Yeah, I think he's amazing. And all of those sorts of people, Jay Shetty, I love having that time. I've got a nice little deck, just fucking rip the shirt off, get a bit of sun on the body and listen to a fucking nice, I don't know, it's fertilizer for the soul, that sort of stuff. Yeah. When you listen and you're having that aha there moment, it's like, fuck, I get that. That resonates with me. And it's like I don't know, you could use sometimes it's like feeling like you're a plant, like a plant sprouting out of a fucking dirt pot. Like it's like.
I've seen some of your videos are fucking funny, including ones where you impersonate like an Esche.
Ernie the Esche. I got in trouble for that today.
Why?
The girl don't like it. She goes, oh, fucking.
But it's very obvious that you've always had this sense of humour. Why do you think that's so important to you?
Oh, you got to have it. I'm the biggest practical joker there is. I had a guy in Maryborough prison. I kept on rubbing his jocks down with chili. He was in for murder, and I told everyone he was a necrophiliac. And he goes, mate. He goes, because he killed his missus. I said, yeah, apparently you dug her up and done. And he goes, no. Anyway, he just had a superiority complex, and I wanted to humble him.
Mm.
So every time he put his washing out, I'd run in there and rub the chili on his jocks. And this went on for a month, and this bloke was a really, really good trainer. And, mate, and he was like,
Did you ever hear him screaming when he put the underwear on?
You just see him.
Did he know it was you?
No. It was the best kept secret. It was the only time I've ever seen fucking 60 blokes fucking keep it, because everyone hated him.
Yeah.
Everyone just was getting so much joy out of seeing this bloke put his undies on and sweat. So, he's sitting there playing cards, waving his shorts away like, oh.
Fucking hell.
And he goes, and all he thinks is, oh, I think that fucking washing powder, I'm having an allergic reaction to that.
Oh, so he never clued on it was chili?
No. You're coming back from medical with this tube of cream going, that should do the trick. And he's fucking scratching his head. And, you know, I was the barber in one jail, at Parramatta Jail in 87, and it was like blokes had come in, like the Romanian drug dealers had come in, and I would give them all Beatles haircuts and rat's tails and stuff like that. You know, going to fucking court. Or just, you know, give them a mohawk and then go, oh, fuck, the fucking clippers are gone. They're fucking broken.
It's not working. Sorry, mate, that's all you got. Yeah.
My other bloke would be on the other side flicking the power off. I'd go, mate, they're broken. They're fucking broken.
What?
Or I'll tell you a funny story. I was too out with this guy once. Me and him shared a cell at Parramatta, and he come home and he was on like the pill. They were Rohypnols and they equivalent to Xanax, and he's snoring his head off. I got a permanent marker and I drew whiskers on his face, like big black whiskers on his face. And he had to go to court the next day. Right?
And he never had a chance to look in the mirror?
No, he never had a chance to look in the mirror. He had to go to court the next day.
Walking past people going, meow.
Yeah, and then his hair, I filled it full of talcum powder, so his hair was just fucking white. And
he had to go to court looking like an absolute dickhead.
It looked like something fucking out of a Jack Nicholson movie, fucking Beetlejuice. And anyway... So he makes it all. No one said nothing to him. The crims never said anything. Like, you got dressed up. And his lawyer says, mate, you can't go into court looking like that. And he goes,
what do you mean?
Looking like fucking what?
Yeah, what do you mean?
And he goes, and then, you know, like back in the police station in the day, they used to have this salvo. And it used to, because what happened was they used to get it to get the ink. Because back in the day, you'd have to use ink to take your fingerprints. And that fucking hard to get. So this fucking really rough soap. And anyway, so he's come home and this rough soap's taken all the skin off his fucking face. His face was red raw before he could go into court. He goes, and he's at the front of the cell. He says, I'm going to kill you when I get in. And I said, what are you fucking talking about? He goes, fucking draw whiskers. I said, mate, you were asleep in the fucking yard on them fucking stupid pills you'd taken. I had to carry you back in. He goes, oh, was I? And I said,
he's so groggy he didn't even know for sure.
And
what happened?
And he calls out in the mustard. He goes, yeah, who's that cunt who drew them fucking whiskers on me? I'll fucking smash you. There's all sorts, man. I was always up to no good. Another one. I don't know if we can talk about it. We're at Goulburn, and there was a bloke there. I said, mate, what's your name? He goes, Bob Seeger. Bob Seeger's name, mate. And I said, have you done your sperm test yet, Bob? And he goes, no, what's that? I said, you're not, when are you going? He goes home in 2 weeks. You got to give him a sperm specimen. And he goes, what? I said, mate, you better get it done. He goes, oh, well, how do I go? I took him over to the clinic. There's an old nurse that used to go along with all my G-ups, and her name was Val. I said, Val, Bob hasn't done his fucking sperm test yet. And she goes, oh, yeah. Anyway, I said, you'll have to get him one of Gary. Gary Purdy was a bloke who lived in the clinic, one of his tang jars. And she came out with this like 1.5 litre tang jar. She said, here, Bob, fill that up and bring it back in the morning. He's looking at it.
What?
Fill it up. There's 1.5 litres. It's like fucking
I'm going to be busy.
3 years worth.
Yeah.
Anyway, I said, come in, Bob. Two of the boys were out having a shower. I said, jump in my cell. There's a few magazines there. Start fucking knocking them out. So Bob's in there doing his business, and the boys have come home from the shower, right? I said, what the fuck you doing? He said, I'm doing my sperm test, leave me alone. And fucking old Bob's getting hoiked up the arse. And we were all in tears. Like, it was forever. Always up to no good, you know. Always up to But, you know, it was amazing how you can entertain yourself. I used to love the Vietnamese in jail. They're a very funny race of people. They're like, you'll have a gang of Vietnamese, and one of them, out of the setup, he's got to be an entertainer. And I've seen Vietnamese stuntmans and fucking
great senses of humour, very likeable.
Anh Do is one of my favourite comedians.
Yep.
Yeah. Have you ever read his book, World's Luckiest Refugee?
No, I haven't.
Great read. I recommend it.
Yeah.
He's actually a qualified lawyer, but also a very good artist, too,
yeah.
as you can imagine. I'm actually getting painted at the moment for the Archibald.
I heard you talking about that on TikTok the other night. That's awesome.
Yeah, Cam Scale, he was the runner-up last year at the Archibald.
That must spin you out, man.
I'm the only bloke from Mount Druitt that's ever happened to.
When you look back at your life and then suddenly like the way things are going and it's all positive and then something like that happens and you get asked if you can be the face on an Archibald Prize submission.
Yeah.
That must feel cool.
That's so cool. He's such a good artist too. And
do you ever, does it ever feel surreal just like how things have like just keep going in a positive direction?
For sure. But I realise that good things happen to good people doing good things. That's one of the many mottos I live by. But I also live by, I try to give more than I take, and I don't go without, But for sure, I pinch myself sometimes, and a couple of my mates shake my hand and go, "What do you got going now?" And I say, "That's Archibald." And they go, "No way." But, I think, it's and some of the places I get myself into, like I sit in some of these fucking, like my young bloke, I took him to work with me one day. I was down the road, or up the road here, the law firm called Coffles. They got this big oak boardroom. I'm there in a pair of fucking shorts and a t-shirt, and all these barristers come out in their Armani suits and all that. My young bloke's going, "Do you feel out of place?" Yeah. He said, "I don't know. I fucking don't know how I feel." I said, "But all I know is I'm here, I'm trying to make a fucking buck.
Yep.
And all I know is they're no fucking better than me."
Yeah.
And I said, "When it comes down to fighting, I'll bash a lot of them." No. They might be good with their pens and I'm good with my fist. No, but no, I don't feel out of place with these people too. When I was a kid, being from Mount Druitt, I did. I used to have the inferiority complex, but now I don't have a superiority complex. But I just know through self-worth I'm as good as anyone.
You're comfortable within yourself.
And that comes, I talk to people, like I might do whatever, a TikTok or whatever I might do, or an Instagram post, and people will inbox me and they'll give me a compliment. And one of my common responses to that is, "Thank you for being part of my healing journey." Because because I've been a person who part of trauma is you lose your self-belief and self-respect and everything like that. But when you hear those compliments enough, it adds to something. It adds to fucking maybe, you can question, you go, "You know what, I am a good person."
I don't know if you ever noticed like the comments I saw on your interview that you did with Spanian, right, on YouTube. There's like hundreds of comments. Yeah. It's all positive. Guys saying Russell's an absolute legend. And it seems to me like that people these days, they can get their head around the idea that like, it's far more complicated than just trying to paint you with the brush of career criminal, bank robber, spent 23 years in prison. It's like, actually, if you hear Russell's whole story, it's like actually there was sexual abuse that led to addiction, that led to this path, that led to a lot of dumb decisions, but he's actually got a good heart, and the people are complicated. Crazy shit happens, but that there's a great guy underneath all that, and it seems like people these days can get that there's enough sophistication in people's minds that.
But isn't that good?
Yeah, it's great.
Isn't it good that we're open and like through my own story we can, like I get the occasion I go, "Well, I was sexually abused, and I didn't do crime." I say, "Mate, I need you on my team." I said, "Can you jump on my team?" They go, "What do you mean?" I say, "Well, jump on my team." I said, "Because you've got the winning formula of not how to do crime and not how to. Obviously, you've got an ability to fucking deal with our drug use. So fucking you need to be educating people." And they go fucking they take off because that needs commitment.
Yeah,
I'm committed.
I think we're very lucky that people these days, generally speaking, obviously there's a lot of exceptions, people that can't get their head around it, but people understand nuance and that there's a lot more complicated bits to these stories. It's not black and white. There's a lot of grey. I feel the same about, being portrayed as a convicted drug dealer. It's like a lot of people can get, okay, well, a lot of the drugs he was selling were these psychedelic drugs that are far less harmful than gambling and alcohol and things like that, that I feel lucky that people these days stop and question a bit more.
For sure, and question. And look, I put something in the corrective services program. Mine's called Rewind, and we say, "What's the underlying issue of your offending behaviour?" And they go, "Drug use." "What's the underlying issue of drug use?" "Trauma." "Well, let's deal with the trauma. Let's go. You don't here's an analogy I use. Your car breaks down, right? So you don't kick its doors in, scratch all the paint off it, and push it in the garage and pull it out in 6 months' time and go, fuck, it should start now.
True.
And it's no different than people that fucking go to jail or commit crimes or anything like that. So what you do is you pop the bonnet up and use the analogy of rehabilitation.
Try to understand.
Find out what's wrong with it, fix it, then push it out and maybe give it a wash on the way out to make it look better. But it's as simple as that. Like this whole lock them up, fuck them over, treat them fucking badly, and they're going to get out like, treat them like animals and they'll get out and act like human beings.
Yeah, it's nonsense.
It doesn't work. It's that fucking simple. We look at the problem with this country is we follow the Americanized system. We're following the prison industrial complex where we're looking at making money of these blokes, you know what I mean? Yep. And it's a form of slave labour. That's okay. People think that's okay, but when it's their fucking kid that's not getting a job because of some blokes working for $3 a day, and that's when there's a problem.
Yeah. It was pretty easy to see prison as a business when I was at Parklea, which is a private jail.
Yeah, yeah.
And you start to see it as being not about rehabilitation at all.
It's about a buck.
Yeah.
So at Parklea, they'd be sort of, say, CEO or Serco or whatever they are. I think it's CEO.
It's broad spectrum.
Is it?
MTC broad
Sounds
spectrum.
like a fucking fly spray. But you know, the government will say, well, you know, we'll give you $300 a day to fucking keep him. Well, they got to work that down to 150, so they're making a profit on you.
Yeah.
So why do they do that? That's security. That's rehabilitate. That's courses. That's food.
Yep.
You know, it's things like I've been in private jails when we didn't even have pillows.
Well, I worked in packaging where they have companies that pay the prison, right, to use inmate labour.
They should be named and shamed. Companies. I know Qantas does it with their headphones. I'll never wear a pair of Qantas headphones because I know a lot of throughout the prison.
And so what guys get paid, they do 30 hours a week and they get paid like $30 a week, something like that.
Isn't that crazy?
So you get about $1 an hour.
You wonder where the unions, though, you'd think the unions would try to stop that. But you know, someone makes a profit out. The phones, you know, like a prison phone, $3.20 for a 6-minute phone call. If you jump on a Telstra phone, pay phone, it's about $2.40 for the same phone call. So who makes the profit off that? Now, I know a bit about phones because I've got a telemarketing business. I know they can cut a deal and get them phones down for 20 or 30 cents a call.
Yeah.
You know, so someone makes a profit, like they're still a provider. There's still a provider providing them phone calls. It's just not Telstra. Someone's making a profit on that. Buy-ups. There's always someone making a profit. And even in the government-run jail, someone's getting a kickback there. It wouldn't be hard to trace down who's making an earn out of that.
Yeah.
You wonder if that's part of their contract. I bet it ain't.
Yeah, there seems to be, there's a lot of that stuff.
makes you think
there's no incentivization to create a pathway where less guys go to jail, but the opposite.
Well, here's something simple. I've always said this. I've always said, you know, okay, to run a prison, you'd have something where, okay, they're doing NA meetings or some sort of drug and alcohol rehabilitation, trauma type stuff. But you'd also, like, there's always this talk, I don't know, it's hard to get a tradie, man, at the moment. We've always had this trade shortage here in Australia. So you're doing 5 years, you do 4 years, you do a trade. You go to one jail, you do your trade, bricklayer, whatever it may be, you do your trade. Last year of that, you go and do public work. So you're doing housing commission stuff or anything like that. So you're a contributing member of society.
Yeah.
It sets you on a good trajectory.
By the end of it, you're feeling you've got the skills, you've got the experience, you've got the training. It's much easier for you to slide back into society and feel good about yourself.
And you haven't got half a dole check and a size 10 boot hanging out your ass telling you it's like the way they do it now, send you out with half a dole check and it's like sending a soldier to war without any guns, with a gun with no bullets in it. Its chances of survival are bleak. You know, a 75% recidivism rate within 2 years of being released. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. There's really like, man, I left school at 14, but it's funny, I can come up with some pragmatic options that'll work and that have got proof of working and that makes sense. Yeah. This whole perpetrating violence upon you and giving you menial jobs, sewing up body bags and stuff like that. Stuff, you know, you're never going to get a job out of a fucking sewing machine, working on a sewing machine. You know what I mean? You might get the fucking the overlocker out to fucking whiz your wife up a nice little frock. But you know what I mean? You're gonna be able to provide your family from that.
Yeah. They're not providing enough practical skills.
And I think a lot can change. And I think, with educating the public, and like they talk about in Norway, what's the greatest asset of the prison system? It's the public expectation.
Yeah. I've had Joe Kwan that runs Confit.
Yeah, I like Joe. Yeah, good bloke.
And he went over.
He went over there. Yeah,
he went over there on a research trip to Norway, and he talked about that on this podcast, just in terms of everything from the way they treat inmates, but also just the way that society views them as, just.
Well, it's that expectation. The expectation in the communities and countries that they come out better people. Here we've got that I call it the Ray Hadley effect. Where, I love you, Ray. Unless,
But people want someone to go to prison and have a horrible, horrible time.
They want them punished. There's we live in a punitive society.
You see people say on social media, have fun in jail, right? And they want someone to go there and fucking have a horrible time.
Right. And they associate everyone the same, like, sex offenders and heathens, they were all the same. It's not really the case. And sad part about it is the resources are directed into the likes of the sex offenders. They've got a course at Long Bay called Cubid.
Yeah, I think Wayne Cleveland was talking about that. It's fucked.
Freaky. They get hamburgers and they get pretty good treatment, but I wouldn't eat the hamburgers because fucking they're full of pubic hair and fucking all sorts of other devices. But and they're normally cooked by crims that ain't sex offenders. But the resources going in, it's not rocket science to train people, to give them some skills to deal with their trauma. Like, someone like Joey Williams, he made trauma's an interesting thing. Like, they can have counselling services that I'd actually get, that'll really change my life, being able to de-escalate and compartmentalise all these thoughts and feelings.
What do you think? I mean, what are the steps for us to start to view criminal rehabilitation in a different way? Is it possible in Australia?
I think it's really hard. We've still got that. We went from a convict nation to a fucking bunch of, I don't like, how they spun that around was an act of genius. Like, everyone had a soft spot, like, for Ned Kelly.
Yep.
The underdog, the bush rangers. Everyone loved them because they were to
the rogue, the rebel.
Yeah. To this society of people that are so judgmental. That are so judgmental and so, like, they love those sorts of people to fucking actually hating them. It's like fucking...
It's hugely stigmatised, yeah.
Yeah, it's massively stigmatised. It takes a lot. But, it takes a... I don't know where we go with it, but I think, someone like myself, other people, Jeff Morgan, people that are doing it, I think... Because, they wrote me off. A psychologist wrote me off as being 1,000,000 to 1 shot at turning my life around.
Yeah, wow. And look at you now.
Yeah. I'm going okay. And I think when stories are told like that, and when there's a voice, like we got a voice saying it can be done, and this is how you go about it.
Yeah. Well, I think your organisation is helping people to share their stories, so I think people can understand crime doesn't happen in a vacuum, right? It just doesn't happen out of thin air. A lot of the times there's trauma.
Underlying issue. There's always an underlying issue of anything, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a definite underlying, and that's what you take the trauma out of society here in Australia, your crime rate would drop by 70%.
Yeah.
Look at what they've done in Portugal with the decriminalisation of drugs. Like, the crime rate just fucking, they closed their jails. They don't need them.
Yeah.
And drug use itself's actually dropped.
Yeah.
Crazy. What when you look at something like that? We have these, please, and there's another post I've done a few months ago about the war on drugs. Fucking war on drugs. Fuck off. Who are you kidding, you fucking idiot?
Wasn't even close.
Yeah, mate. It's like a game of football. It's 600-0. The Crims are winning 600-0.
And it's only 10 minutes in.
Yeah, we're 10 minutes in, and the coppers come in, the coaches and the politicians go, we're winning the war on drugs. We fucking scored 1 point.
Yeah, 1 field goal.
And then old mate just runs past with a runaway try going and go, oh. And the public wear it like a fucking Kmart suit. Yep. You know what I mean? They wear it like, It amazes me how people wear that. Like, here's that other one. Well, they had federal government done some $475 million grant for ICE education. I went to Battens and police fucking thing. We went to the police. I went, how's that going? Like, does anyone look back and go, where did that $475 million go? And how effective was it? Like, that's where the public come in and go, hey, man, look, I just want to fucking rewind the tapes a bit here. Go to the video ref. And what happened with the $475 million?
And went to bashing and harassing people rather than actually educating anyone on the impact.
He's a classic. Here's one. He's the ICE addict that's sitting in prison.
Yeah.
You put him in a prison van. You pull up out front of the school. You open the doors of the prison van. He comes off, and it's real. His teeth are fucked. He looks a mess. His fucking jaw's got the swing on it still. And get him to talk to the kids about the effects of ice.
That would have far more impact on me and any other people, particularly young people, than just hearing, oh, you shouldn't do ice because there's way more police checking for people using ice.
So Section 3158 of the Act will make you, it's punishable of 3 months penal servitude.
Yeah, there's an extra group of guys with battens and sniffer dogs at the music festival, don't do ice, versus this is what you fucking look like, right? Yeah.
And this is what it does to your life. Old mate's been in jail for fucking 15. He can't get his life together. His greatest asset's a pair of fucking thongs. You know what I mean? The harsh reality of that, you know, and him talking about wasted sporting talent or whatever, you know, I think it's more effective, you know what I mean? Education's the key and getting them while they're young, you know, and leaving a lasting impression on them.
That's why I think people are afraid of the idea of legalizing drugs. But it's like, it's just because if suddenly they made these illegal drugs legal, people aren't going to go out and go, oh, better get on the meth then because it's legal.
Seems like a good idea.
Yeah, and it's like, no, you've been educated to understand, and that's the thing that there needs to be far more of a focus on.
100%. Not so long ago, when I talk 15, 20, 25 years ago, JB occupied, you could get life for pot. Old Queen, fucking Joe with Joe, and still back in the days, you could get fucking slap on the wrist for touching 30 kids.
Backwards world.
It's crazy. It's crazy. But I think, you know, slowly but surely through the advent of social media, more like people like myself, that Wes Watson, fucking smack. You know, you follow Wes Watson on Instagram.
No,
follow him. He's a bloke. He's an interesting guy. Done 10 years in the pen.
Yeah.
And he's a motivational speaker. You want to know why you've got that fat gut? Because you're a lazy fat fuck. Get off. When I was in the pen, I was training at 3 o'clock in the fucking morning. He's just one of those guys, you know. But people like that, people telling their stories of how you can change, and these are the steps you do to change, you know what I mean? If it wasn't for Julia, I still think this, if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be in the position I am now. That woman showed the balls. And I think she copped a lot of flack after it. The misogynist speech and how to come after that, because that was just all a square up. They just went hell for leather and trying to scare it. But it wasn't for someone who showed the tenacity to do what she done. Like all good PMs, all the good ones leave a legacy, and hers is definitely that. You know,
the Royal Commission.
The Royal Commission in our institution, mate, it changed the lives of so many people. She made the country a lot safer for children, because as a byproduct of that, this education process will start, you know what I mean? And she will actually play a big part in dropping it, because these people that work, say I got 16,000 clients, say for instance, they stop doing crime, they start becoming productive. Man, that's not a bad drop in the crime rate. Them coppers want to be thanking me.
Yep.
They don't.
Yep.
No.
And not only do they do less crime, but then any kind of flow-on effects from the
intergenerational chain. You're breaking the intergenerational abuse chain, because it's fucking getting it. And you know, you're not passing that abuse on, that trauma onto your children and the children's children. And, you know, it's about breaking that chain. But
so it's you're fixing way more than just that the people that have come to see you in the first place, right? 100%. The flow-on effect from that is massive.
I do, you know. I got pulled in, so my mate got killed had a shootout with the coppers up at Penrith. Daniel King, God bless his soul, and a homicide squad pulled me out. Get called the fucking Downing Centre by down the Surrey Hills Police Centre by a fucking homicide squad. You go, oh fuck, what the fuck?
How long ago was this?
Oh, about 3 years ago, 2
Yeah.
years ago. And anyways, I went down there and talked, and I said, "Do I need a?" He said, "Mate, you don't need a lawyer. It's just I want to ask you about Daniel King." I said, "Okay." So I went down there and had a chat, and first thing he said, "Mate, I fucking love the work you do." He goes, "You got the support of so many of us," and I said, "Fucking really? That's the first." You know, and he goes, yeah. Must be frustrating for them coppers too, you know. You're arresting these fucking pedophiles and that sort of stuff, and then go to court, and they're just fucking slapped off.
Surely.
Yeah.
You know, at some point, like after all these years and hearing all these stories, there must be some people that think, yeah, the way that things have been, we're fucked. Like, surely when they hear stories of the way things were back in the day, where like pedophilia was just so rife, and also these pedophile enablers, that a lot of these guys must be sick to the stomach themselves.
100%. I'd feel for him. Gary Jublin's a bloke. He's got. I've done a couple of podcasts with him. He's definitely passionate about it. It's good to see that.
Do you think any of the kind of shit that happened when you were abused, do you think any of that stuff is still going on?
Oh, it has to be. There's an officer in one of the boys' homes in Queensland that's still employed. There's about 50 cases. I mean, a big bodybuilder bloke. And he pins them down, sticks his fingers up their bums and that, and they know that. They've got pending cases. They're actually settling on cases against him, but he's still employed. Queensland, mate. I'll tell you what, that is the home, and I love having a dig at the Queensland government. That's the home of the fucking pedophile. I'm telling you, mate. It's a sunny place for shady people. And, mate, they have been protected up there for a fucking long time. They've got a jail that's full of them. They're protected. Like, even in the work we do, mate, they had an inquiry about a year ago about the work we do to try shutting us down because they don't want survivors to have a voice. You know,
they don't want you shining a light on this
don't.
Disgusting behaviour that's going on in there.
You know, Queensland Corrective Services has got a thing that no one can have my phone number on their phone.
What? The whole fucking prison system?
Yeah, I had blokes ring me, they go, mate. And my number rings.
Yeah.
But there's my voicemail, and my phone doesn't even ring, so they've plugged it. Oh, they've done. But
fuck.
Because they don't want to have a shine. They don't want to have an inspiration. They don't want them blokes to have someone to sort of say, fuck, he's done it, so can we. It's crazy. New South Wales embraces me. They get me to go in there and talk to them.
It seems crazy that it's still happening now.
Yeah.
You know?
It's crazy. But, with, education and keeping that voice nice and loud, it's going to change things. Something's got to give. It's given. It's like Victoria's a good place for it. They'll embrace it. Like the work we do, they'll welcome it. They'll go, we got nothing to hide, mate. We want to clean this up. The quicker we clean it up, the better. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You'd think that they would want this shit like just purged from their systems, because anyone, as we were talking about before, anyone who thinks it's okay to protect anyone or keep them from facing justice that's involved with this shit is just as bad.
Just as bad, 100%. I have no doubt, and I say that. And I think, you've seen those protesters out in front of that Port George Pell.
Yeah, right. There's a lot of people that think the same way as you.
Yeah,
it's like
going, what? Are you fucking kidding me? And they go, oh, they're just making excuses. What?
Yes.
One bloke said that to me.
I could see the videos. I could see these guys that were upset with the protesters. Like, take that down. Like what's wrong with you guys?
A ribbon, a representative of someone that's been abused. Why would you want to take it down?
Yeah.
Because there's the acknowledgement that it happened. You don't want to acknowledge it that happened. Why wouldn't you want to acknowledge it? You're the one who done the fucking wrong thing.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Like, I remember going to visit a mate, and he was one of these farms where it was mixed with everyone, and I seen the bloke that these people were visiting. This bloke's a fucking rock spider, child molester for sure. I said, you visiting him? What's he in for? And they said, he had a little bit of a problem with the kids.
That's how they describe it.
Yeah, and I went, he had a bit of a problem with the kids.
Yeah,
I said, what do you mean?
It's insane the language that people around some of these people would use.
They're justifying it. It's
not
had a bit of a sickness.
It's not.
He fucking sickness. What, do you have the flu? He didn't have the flu. He was fucking
raping kids.
He was hurting children. He was destroying people's fucking lives.
He had a little problem with the kids.
Crazy.
Well, I think everyone can acknowledge that you're doing important work out there. What's next for you? Is there any?
Mate, I'm really passionate about working in the prisons, but more so with the juvenile justice centres, and some doors are open. And I've been doing a bit of work in Brisbane, of all places, at BYDC with the African gangs, the Sudanese kids, and I fucking love it.
They let you go in, and what do you do?
I go in there and talk to them and tell them a bit about my life and little ways that they can fucking change theirs.
And do they respond well to it?
They love it.
That's awesome, man.
Can I tell you something? You know what? Have you ever seen an African kid working in McDonald's? You won't ever see it, mate, because McDonald's don't employ Africans.
Wow.
They don't employ Africans. Them kids up against... You won't see an African kid pushing trolleys at Woolworths either, because Woolworths don't do it either. So those kids can't even get the base rate fucking job.
Just can't get even an entry
racial
level
vilification.
Can't even get an entry level job.
Yeah, because of fucking some racist fucking unwritten law. You know, I'm told I spoke to someone in Adelaide, and one bloke said, I seen a kid pushing trolley at Woolworths. I said, yeah, I don't see too much of it.
Yeah, that's one. Yeah, where's the rest?
You know what I mean? They can't even get... And I just... Man, when you hear their stories, you go, fucking... No wonder why you're a crim. No wonder you got a resentment, because fucking you're being treated like a fucking dog. Embrace those kids, man.
And nobody hears that story as well. You know, all they hear about is the crime and think, oh, these guys are no good.
Yeah, send them back to their own country. They're born here.
Yeah.
Well, this is their country. Embrace it. Because they don't suit your idea of a fucking white Anglo-Saxon Aussie, fucking embrace it, man. Get used to it. Fucking put your hand out. Don't fucking, you know, put your hand out. Give them something. Offer them a job.
Yeah.
Mate, even if it's something fucking mow my lawn at once or whatever, just do something. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. You know, and that's what I'm passionate about, is educating those kids, but also helping people heal, man. It's so rewarding, and watch people go from having a horrible life to creating really nice memories, you know, of fucking seeing families come back together. The dad is available.
Yep.
And the kids are fucking dead set smile from ear to ear. Their dad's back, or their son's back, or their daughter's back, or
That's
whatever.
Very special.
Very, very special. And it's something that I love doing. I love seeing it. And for me, at that stage, I get to see it a lot. And I get to see it a lot. And you know, some people die, you know. Some people die along the process. There's one bloke, he just said to me, this bloke, not only did they sexually abuse him, they trialled fucking... They were trying pharmaceutical drugs on him in a boys' home, like different sort of drugs.
What the fuck?
Yeah, they were trialling pharmaceutical drugs on him. So anyway, and like he just said, I finally got some peace in my life. My story was told. I was out in the open. It wasn't a sick secret no more. And he thanked me so much. He just a big long-winded paragraph of like what he thanked me. I mean, it was so rewarding. It was so rewarding.
Gave him peace.
Very patient. And another I've seen a photo of three brothers that hadn't spoken to each other for years and went to mediation up here at the Supreme Court, and they were fucking embracing for the first time in 30 years. Like, fuck, well, what sort of price do you put on that, you know? Like, you do that shit for nothing, you know?
And it's all because you've given people this platform where they can begin the steps to talking about something which they may not have talked to a soul about ever in their life.
It's a beautiful feeling. And I'm always working ways to better that, you know. I've had people work for me and see dollar signs in it, and off they go. And next minute they're my competitor, but I don't know. They don't last too long because you know integrity shines through. You know. Yeah,
they're not coming at it for the right reasons.
Yeah, when you make it money with this sort of thing, I think it's a karma thing. When you make it money like solely wholly monetary based, it doesn't work out for you. You don't last long. You know.
Yeah.
I'll just sit back and just like my business partner will say, "Oh, there's the deal." I say, "Mate, it won't last long." Just sit back and watch this unfold. You know, and I don't know I could work. I could get 3 times if I wanted to work. There's one in particular law firm. They'd pay me 3 times the amount of money I'm getting, and it'd be an exclusive deal with them. And I just wouldn't pan out. I wouldn't get a say in how these survivors get treated, and I wouldn't cop that.
Yeah,
I wouldn't cop that because I'm ringing them. I'm saying, "Hey, mate, you can't charge him that. You can't treat him that. You can't say this. You can't treat him like that." And if you don't make fucking phone calls and update that person with what's going on, I'm going to move him to somewhere else.
Yep.
If you just treat him like a commodity, I'll treat you like a fucking commodity and fucking just send you on your way. You know, and it's good to be that. It's good to be that. I wouldn't say it. Just there. That's a proper advocate. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. That shows that someone that cares.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that shines through. I think that's probably a big part of the reason why people, why you capture such high quality versions of their story when they first come to you, right? Because they know that about you, and so people feel comfortable to open up in a way that they may not necessarily feel the same with someone else.
Yeah. It's been a good journey so far. I'm like, oh man, it's drained me at times, but even when it has drained me, I dust myself off, and and I fucking love it. And I wake up with a purpose. Like, that's the big difference these days, having that purpose.
Yeah.
And having the passion and having the drive applied to that passion, to the purpose, and that linking it all together. And it's just, I was just explaining I was just sitting up at my joint, and I was just, because I'm a real big visualizer, I like visualizing. I can feel things, and Wayne Cleveland sort of talks about it, about sitting in the water, and he can feel the big surf on its way. There's like a vibration in the ocean, like your legs are dangling. It might be today, it might be tomorrow, but in about 3 days' time, all of a sudden there's 3 metre fucking swell out there, you know what I mean? And I have that with my, my progress. Sometimes I feel, right at the moment I'm going through this stage now, this vibration going on, something big's about to happen, and I know I've sort of an idea.
It's a good feeling.
Yeah, it is a good feeling. I'm really gonna do a lot of work in Melbourne and in Adelaide and Western Australia. I feel it's happening, and I'm bringing people in. They're so responsive to what I'm bringing them about at the moment, and nothing's been bad, and it's a really, really nice feeling, and a big part of my drive right now is like, I got really fucked over in Queensland they had a parliamentary inquiry about the work I do. They produced fake documents, like they had invoices for $19,000 for a client. We charged nothing like that, maybe a third of that, right? It had my letterhead on it with all different, it was bullshit. It was a lie, and
just trying to discredit you.
Yeah, trying to discredit us. You know what I mean? So
pretty
I love
sad.
sticking my finger up to them people, because they tried stopping Australian Story.
Fuck.
In the Australian Story, they jump in and say, they approach Australian Story. And one bloke in particular, who is in charge of handing out this redress scheme, which is like fucking monkey money, I call it. They just fucking circus money. They just give you.
You just piss weak amounts of cash for the experiences that people have had. Yeah.
And this one bloke in particular, and it's like fucking, he just went out of his way trying to stop Australian Story.
Imagine if these people spent that same amount of energy in trying to silence you on actually fucking
helping people,
getting rid of the fucking sexual abuse.
Seen that with the Pell thing. Them coppers, imagine them coppers being applied. There's a fucking 800 coppers there the other day. Imagine them being applied to fucking investigating pedophiles or kicking in the doors of pedophiles and seeing what they got on the computers.
Yeah.
Mate, they'll be ducking for cover.
Yeah, the amount of cops that they spend fucking with dogs, sniffer dogs at train stations, catching people for fucking $20 worth of weed. Go and catch some fucking sex offenders.
But a whole bikie law. Look at the bikie law.
Yeah.
They've got these things called
the FPOs.
Firearm prohibition order. Yeah. So they can kick a bikie's door in at any given time and look for guns and everything. No warrant. They do it with a pedophile. They've got to fucking have a warrant.
And it can be anyone who has the FPO, any house they go to. So it can be their friend's house, anywhere. Just bang, raided with no warrant. Yeah,
it's crazy. I've got to go shortly.
No trouble.
I've got to have a fucking piss.
No trouble. Let's wrap this up. Well, I think if anyone wants any information on Russell's organisation, so the website is just voiceofasurvivor.com.au.
Yeah.
Is it .com.au?
Yeah,
great.
Yeah. Voice of a Survivor. You can catch me on Instagram, Russell_Manser, Russell_Manser on TikTok.
Yep. And obviously your book, Voice of a Survivor, which I think is an important read of it's an eye-opening Australian story that I think everyone should read. And obviously you've got your podcast, The Stick Up.
Get it on Spotify and